So, AJ Styles came out for a promo. Looking at the graphic on the screen behind him, I realized that Bound for Glory is this month. I thought it was November, which means the month of October is going to have 3 pay-per-views.
All right, before you go any further, I typed TNA into the Urban Dictionary. TNA, or Total No Action Wrestling, is the worst promotion of all times. Most TNA fans are either blind or stupid. Also, their show, TNA Impact, gives away free tickets because they know if they charged, they'll have an empty arena every time. Not even their dumbass fans would pay for their shit. Factors for TNA sucking include, but not all, overdramatic storylines, unneeded shock factors, untalented worked matches covered blood, I don't even know what that means, incompetent authority figures, spelled wrong, constant WWE references, typical need to copy WWE, unconcerned with their wrestlers' health. Example number 1. That's a long example. I'm not going to read it.
It's a very long dictionary definition. Did you write it?
I didn't write it. TNA is a weekly televised wrestling show that is full of predictable nonstop action. Below is a quick breakdown of an episode of TNA. We can compare this to tonight's episode. Eric Bischoff cuts a 20-minute promo. The commentary team announced the match card. A fight breaks down backstage and lasts around 10 minutes. A knockout match is on but ends in about 4 minutes. Another knockout beats down the winner and walks off. Eric Bischoff is shown talking with Ric Flair backstage until commercial break. A tag team match is on. The face team wins but are attacked after that. Eric Bischoff and Immortal are talking backstage about taking over. And the main event ends in a no contest when Immortal beat down the face superstar.
That does all sound frighteningly familiar. If not with this show, then just dozens of wasted nights watching Impact Wrestling.
Well, let's go.
AJ Styles came out for a promo. Talked about going through Bully Ray to get his title back when he was interrupted by Bully and Brooke's ass. AJ compared Bully Ray to Dixie because he used people and spat them out. Ray was cool with this, took it as a compliment. He was just as ruthless, as successful, and as she was. He vowed to send AJ home with no belt and no contract, just him and his miserable wife and kids. Then AJ broke the news that Ray had a match tonight, and he said, "Your opponent is going to kill you."
It's a threat.
Jesus Christ. And this led to AJ trying and failing to get the crowd to chant, "Joe is going to kill you" at Ray.
He didn't try very hard.
Well, no.
He didn't want to chant it himself. He just said it twice, and nobody in the crowd took the hint.
Then AJ confronted Dixie backstage. She said his contract was up. His only remaining obligation was the championship match at Bound for Glory. Completely unconcerned that he might win her belt and then leave. Just asked security to have him taken out of the building, and he volunteered to leave on his own because he didn't want to be with her anymore.
If they do the Montreal screw job for this fucking pay-per-view match, I don't know what I'm going to do.
What would be worse, the complete ripoff of Montreal or the complete ripoff of CM Punk?
Oh, Montreal for sure. Punk is at least within the last couple of years.
That's true.
I never even thought about this till just now. But you're right. He has one match left on his contract. So he is Bret Hart. If he wins the title, he can take the title to WWE. And so she will be forced to screw him out of the title. I can't handle this. I will not stand for this, everyone.
Get that Kickstarter up and running. Aired a commercial for the merchandise site. Among the items you can buy on shoptna.com. You can buy a poster that's just Brooke's ass. Kenny King and Chris Sabin wrestled Manik and Jeff Hardy. Last week, you recall that Kenny King was busted wide open and bled everywhere. And since the show was taped like an hour later, he bled everywhere again, although not nearly as bad. Your basic TV tag match.
Don't forget Austin Aries doing commentary.
Austin Aries was doing commentary.
Very generic.
I did actually forget that until the very end here. King and Sabin had miscommunication. Hardy pinned King with a senton. And then Sabin went after the baby faces afterwards. Aries from the commentary desk chased him away. Aries challenged Sabin to a 4-way with himself and Manik and Hardy. So it sucks to be Kenny King. And then Hardy said, just because he never done one before, let's make it an Ultimate X match.
So to recap, Austin Aries made a challenge. Jeff Hardy made the stipulation. Manik is the champion, and he had no say and said nothing.
That's correct.
Just wanted to make sure.
Also, Sabin was on the ramp saying, no, I don't want to do this because he's the heel. And I've always said, if you don't want to be in a match, just lie down and get pinned or submit. In this case, it's even more passive than that. If you don't want to be in this match, just don't climb the fucking cables.
And why would he not want to be in the match if the title's on the line?
Because you could get hurt.
Well, that is true. If I were him, I wouldn't want to be in this damn match with my 2 bad knees.
Yeah. Sting met with Hulk. They compared Dixie to Bischoff, who was not here to cut her 20-minute promo. They said she had gotten drunk with power and she had gone wacko. And a lackey walked in and brought Hogan a gift from Miss Carter. It was a watch. They determined it was the same watch that she had given Sting last year. Somehow, this let Hulk determine that this made Dixie worse than Bischoff because, quote, he never got me anything.
I don't know what he was talking about here.
I have no idea what he was talking
His
about.
His delivery was funny, but it made no sense what he was saying. I do love that if you follow the Hulk Hogan storyline in TNA, this is a man who stole Dixie's company out from underneath her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, years later, she has given him an ultimatum, and he has determined that she is the worst ever and drunk with power. How'd she get the company back, by the way?
They talked about it in the.
I totally forgot.
He agreed to wrestle Sting with a company on the line, and Sting beat him.
That's right.
Sting met with Magnus actually last week. They showed it this week, but Magnus lost the match last week. Ego had attacked him. He said Ego had gotten into his head. He wanted to take care of them all by himself, facing them all tonight. So they had a gauntlet match.
Do you remember when Hulk Hogan was going to wrestle Sting, and he put the company on the line, as you noted? Do you recall how that was set up?
All I remember is that they aired a video on the show that showed Hogan accepting the challenge in the steps.
Yeah, but remember he blurted out that he put the title on the line and then covered his face and his eyes grew wide?
I do now, yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
At the time, I thought it was stupid at the time. But now looking back in hindsight, not remembering anything, when I asked you, how did she get the company back? And you said, Hogan put the company on the line in a match with Sting and he lost. My first question in my head was, why the fuck would Hogan put the entire company on the line in a match with Sting? And then, when I think back to what happened, the answer is, he opened his big damn mouth and screwed it up for himself. So at the end of the day, in hindsight, that's not too bad. At least he gave an explanation for it. He got cocky. Cocky and opened his big mouth.
That was an amazing sidetrack.
I was just thinking about it now, because I remember when he did it, and his eyes grew wide, and it was like he blurted it out, and at the time it felt like a wacky way to set up a giant stipulation. But when you really think about it, nothing else would have made sense. Why the hell would he ever put the company on the line? Unless he was just a complete idiot. He got cocky, opened his big mouth.
So Magnus had his gauntlet match against Ego.
Yeah.
He wrestled Daniels and beat him. He wrestled Kazarian and beat him. And these were generic 3-minute TV matches. They were not big, epic victories to show him overcoming the odds. They were not dominant squashes where he laid these men out and was completely unstoppable. Nope. These were everything you see every week. He just did them twice.
With no heat.
With no heat. This little experiment failed. For the third match, Kazarian clipped Magnus' leg before he left. And so Roode worked the leg the whole time. They got a little bit of heat. It was better. And finally, Magnus went for his top rope elbow, but his leg hurt, so that caused him to delay the move. By the time he tried it, Roode rolled out of the way. And then Roode, who's going to be feuding with Kurt Angle, put out an ankle lock, and Magnus tapped out. So that led to Magnus throwing a tantrum at ringside, throwing furniture around. Sting came out to try to talk to him, and I don't know what the announcer said the first time, but they had Mike Tenay redub some commentary, and everything about this was as phony as possible. His delivery sucked. The way they tried to edit it back in and make it sound like part of the show also sucked.
It sounded like he was talking into a tin can.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was very bad. Magnus said, look, I know you and Angle and Joe, you all have confidence in me, but I'm just not getting it done. I can't win the big one. Sting said, you need one big match, like the one I had against Ric Flair. Magnus said, nobody's going to put me on the map like Flair did for you. And Sting said, I will. I'll fight you at Bound for Glory. Magnus accepted, so the match is on. So the gimmick is that Magnus can't beat anybody. So Sting's going to try and boost his confidence by beating him.
Well, he's going to give him a big chance. He's got nothing to lose. The guy's flipping his lid, you know?
I guess.
What I thought was interesting about this is, if you watch MMA or UFC or Jiu-Jitsu or anything, you know that if you get stuck in something, you tap. Everybody taps. Everybody submits. But this is pro wrestling. And in pro wrestling, the babyfaces never quit. And so, when he first tapped out, I was like, you guys are such complete numbskulls. Why would you have this guy submit? But by the time the whole thing was done, it was fine. It played into the storyline. He did beat two guys. He tried really hard. A bad guy clipped his knee. He had a bum knee, and he was stuck in this hold. He couldn't get out, and he submitted, and it caused him to fall into a deep depression and lose his mind, which led to this whole thing. So at the end of the day, I think it was fine. But as a general rule, if you want to get a guy over, he shouldn't be submitting clean
he
to
be
heel.
Losing.
Yes.
I had a problem with the submission. Aries went into Hogan's office, presented him with a bottle of vegan vitamins. He said that Hulk used to wear red and yellow. He used to wear black and white. And this decision was very black and white. And Hulk said he understood.
He said, I get it.
I get it, Hulk said.
And I was like, I don't get it. What is Aries saying, and what have you determined?
I don't know. Here was where they put in the Hulk TNA video package, including the months where, yes, he spent months screwing Dixie out of the company. Then he lost it back to Sting. Then he turned and saved Sting from a bunch of bad guys, basically because Sting asked him nicely. Mm-hmm. He took over as GM. He was fighting the Aces and Eights. He tried and failed to re-sign AJ. That was about it. Sabin cut a promo backstage saying he was not going to be in Velvet's corner tonight. Said she was the toughest girl in the company. She could take care of herself. Meanwhile, he was facing a grueling four-way. He was going to find a quiet place and do some meditation, some Tai Chi, and some yoga. He turned to the interviewer and he said, cool, dude? Cool. He left.
3 weeks before the pay-per-view. Needs to start doing some Tai Chi.
Yes. Heel Sabin is fun. Ego had a great segment backstage celebrating their win over Magnus. And they broke the news to Roode that he was going into the Hall of Fame. The Ego Hall of Fame. Roode was flattered beyond belief for this. They all celebrated. They were all joyous. They agreed to have a big black tie ceremony next week. And they were best friends, and they sang Roode's theme song together. This was great.
Did they sing his theme song, or were they singing the Hall of Fame song?
I think it was the Hall of Fame song to his music.
See.
Yeah.
Yes.
His song is something about coming off the chain, and they changed that to the Hall of Fame. And Bobby Roode is going to be feuding with Kurt Angle, and coincidentally, he's getting very large. Brooke was scheduled to wrestle Velvet. There's now only one Brooke in the company.
She has no last name now.
It's just Brooke again. So before the match could begin, Lei'd Tapa came out. And when I say Lei'd Tapa came out, I mean there was no light show. There was no fanfare. It was just music played, generic music played. A large woman came out. She got into the ring. Looked like anyone else on the show. They could not have made this a smaller deal.
Except she was physically gigantic.
She's 9 feet tall, yes. But her actual debut was just completely low-key and uneventful. And so she came out, and she beat up Velvet and the ref, and Brooke just disappeared. And Lei'd Tapa declared this was her ring and her island. had a profile video on Gunstorm that should have aired when they won the titles months ago. And Storm talked about what a tough opponent Gunner had always been and how he had been through combat and so nothing in the ring was going to scare him. And Gunner said Storm was the veteran and the tag team expert who was teaching him how to get things done. And Storm said he was the one who liked to party and Gunner was the one who kept him out of trouble. And this was good stuff. Kurt Angle Hall of Fame video. He won an Olympic medal and then showed up in TNA. He skipped everything in the middle.
Yeah.
Which, what are they going to do?
You know what's amazing about Kurt Angle?
A lot.
Well, that is true. But, so Kurt Angle does the Olympics. And as was not mentioned in this video, Kurt Angle then went to WWE, where he had a stunning career, basically. However, he debuted there in, I guess it was 98?
9?
Late 98.
Somewhere in there?
Late 98. And he was there from late 98 to 2006. So that would be 8 years. Right?
Okay.
He's now been in TNA from 2006 to 2013. So he has almost been at Impact Wrestling as long as he was in WWE. That is amazing to me.
I actually knew it was close, and I actually thought he'd already passed that point.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah. He was not, well, in the grand scheme of things, he was not there that long. Main event time. Bully Ray versus Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is wrestling in a shirt, or at least he was in this show, which is funny because he's no fatter than he's been. And in fact, at many times in his career, he's been much fatter than he is now, and he had no shirt then. So the ref got bumped, and Joe got the choke, and the World Heavyweight Champion tapped out, which really should have been a bigger deal, but it wasn't.
Standing.
Yep.
He put on the choke as they were both standing up.
Yep. So ref was out, and Bully Ray got his hands on the chain, and he came up the top rope and clonked Joe with it, but by that time the ref had come to, and he disqualified Bully Ray, and that was the end. That was lame. So Ray went to pile drive Joe on the concrete when who should make the save coming through the crowd but AJ Styles. Attacked Ray, lead him out. Atlas Security came to get AJ, and AJ responded by running away.
Yeah, keep in mind he'd been kicked out of the building earlier, or he voluntarily left.
He was going to get kicked out.
And then he came back here in the crowd, ran in, then runs back into the crowd, and is mobbed by fans.
There was 8 to 12 of them.
They were very excited.
But those 8 to 12 were very, very, very excited. This came off like he was a big fucking deal. And then it was main event promo time. Dixie came out. Said she was the woman who could take Hulk Hogan's career to another level. Just think about that line.
She's right. It's just the opposite direction of what you would think. I'm going to take you to a new level of irrelevance, Hulk.
I had not interpreted it that way. She wanted to know if Hulk would, quote, take a ride on the Dixie train.
That was actually a great line.
Crowd was chanting for Dixie train. Hogan did the stroking his mustache and appearing to think about this Dixie train ride thing. He said it was an amazing offer, but it was an amazing offer for somebody else because he was quitting.
Yeah.
He started to walk away, and Dixie tried to block his exit. He started walking anyway, and she hugged his leg, and Hulk, with his bad hip, dragged her up the ramp a bit and thought, this is a bad idea. He turned to her and said, Dixie, let go. And she let go, and he walked away, and he walked out of the company.
This is literally exactly like a little kid when they hug your leg and they won't let go, and they make you drag them across the floor.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Dixie was doing with Hulk.
And at the end, Dixie was screaming about how you can't quit, you're fired, and then the show ended.
I got to talk here about why I, at the beginning of the show, said that I think that when this was taped, he was really leaving, and they were not sure if he would ever be back. Now, when you watch this, you would think that there's no way, because why would they book this? Well, it's because Hogan has creative control. I think that if you watch this segment, it was so rushed. You know what I mean? Like, if this were an angle to bring him back, I feel like it would have been about 15 minutes long. Like they would have come out at 12 minutes to the top of the hour, and they would have talked and talked and talked and talked, done their dramatic angle, lots of crying, hugging the leg, that sort of thing. Instead, Hogan comes out. Today says that we are on the verge, he said, of one of the most important decisions ever. So Dixie does her little heel promo, kisses his ass. He comes out. She says the line about taking a ride on the Dixie train. Some Dixie train chants. He says a quick blurb. He quits. Starts to leave. She grabs his leg. He says, let go. He leaves. Show goes off the air. I feel like this probably went a lot longer live, and they just edited it as much as possible so that they were still abiding by his creative control to get all of his spots in, but tried to make it as quick and over with as possible. You know what I mean? Because it was so stupid. Can you imagine, like, if this guy shows up in WWE, how even stupider this is going to look? That he showed up in WWE after leaving TNA when Dixie Carter was on her knees, hugging his leg, begging him not to go. It's just mind-boggling. Now, I do expect him to be back, but this was an amazing piece of television history right here.
It was, well, but, you know, obviously this was taped last week, so watching it was just, yep, that unfolded exactly as it was described to me.
I actually expected it to be longer and worse.
But, my reaction was to when it came out was just, well, that right there is why Hulk is the best of all time. Because he got the company to kiss his ass as he left.
Well, the best of all time in terms of being out for himself.
Yeah.
He did the company no favors here.
Of course not.
And again, think about the fact that this was like the main event final angle on the show. Bound for Glory. AJ, Bully. I mean, hello. They took second fiddle to Hulk Hogan, perhaps legit, walking out of TNA never to be seen again.
Yes.
I would also like to say that I do agree that Dixie is much better as a heel than as a babyface. But when I read people talking about how she's 1,000 times better as a heel, you're probably right. Because she was at a very, very low level as a babyface. This is not high praise. She's every owner of a company who wants to be a bad guy you've ever seen. And at least she delivers her lines in an all right manner. Want to take a ride on a Dixie train was a great line. But the rest of it was, this is just someone trying to be a bad guy. It's not really that great. But it is a million times better than her as a babyface. So there you go. That's Impact, everybody. 2 weeks. 2 weeks? 3 weeks till Bound for Glory? 20th?
It was the 20th, so this Sunday is Battleground. 2 weeks after that will be Bound for Glory, and I'm guessing the next week will be whatever the other WWE show is.
This was a pretty good show.
On the whole, it was.
And it was astonishing because there was nobody there. I mean, there was nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
But the nobody that was there was so into this show.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the opposite of the Ring of Honor show we watched.
If you would have taken the, I'll just say 750 fans, maybe there were more, maybe there were less. But if you'd taken these 750 fans and multiplied it by 10, so like a smaller than average Raw crowd, it would have been the hottest crowd maybe in the history of wrestling. These people were so into Impact.
Yeah.
The few that were there. Mm-hmm. And apparently they were just as hot for hour 2, or show 2, which is taking place next week. We shall see.
Yeah, on TV, I'd heard that they had tarped off the entire building. And I was looking for signs of empty seats or just no people being there. And other than there's like one shot where they couldn't help but get the left side of the stage, where you couldn't even see anything anyway, but I saw some empty rows there. But otherwise, it came off fine on TV. So, Dixie Carter came out for a promo. She did not name Hulk Hogan, but she mentioned, talked about him and how he had embarrassed her last week and we would never hear his name on Impact again.
Went out of her way to not mention his name. Okay. That's the storyline.
He who shall not be named, I believe she said. Her bangs are crooked. And this is either a crappy haircut or just absolutely great heel heat. Because it drove me nuts. She explained she did not need this mystery unnamed man to succeed. She did not need Eric Bischoff. She did not need Stephanie Levesque or the Jarretts. I'm sitting here 2 hours after we watched this, and I still can't believe this promo. Because at the same time, she made TNA look like a rinky-dink, second-rate knockoff of WWE, simultaneously throwing out insider comments going over most fans' heads.
And burying all the people that she'd hired.
Oh, yes. 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 She then buried AJ for sneaking back into the building last week, and as revenge, she was going to allow Bully Ray to book AJ in any match he wanted. At this point, Sting interrupted. Before he could say much, Dixie pointed out that Sting had been the one to suggest Hogan be hired as GM in the first place. And then he had gone and booked himself against Magnus at BFG. So, she determined she was going to book Sting and Magnus as a team against Kaz and Daniels tonight, and if either of them lost the match, then neither of them would be at the pay-per-view. So, they had to win as a team for the right to wrestle on the pay-per-view in an angle taken straight out of Mexico.
You know, Dixie is, she is better as a heel than a babyface. And she did have a few good lines here on this show. But, my God, did this need to go on this long? It was like, it's the old, mentioned a million times, put the boss on TV, and then she's a TV star, she won't want to pull the plug. It's all fine and good. But she was on the air forever, and it was way too long. I think that Dixie is best as a heel in limited doses. She is new at this. She doesn't need to be on there for 20 minutes.
Austin Aries cut a backstage promo. He vowed to win the Ultimate X match and also beat Jeff Hardy tonight. AJ Styles arrived, said he had never backed down from a fight. He vowed once again to make Dixie pay, and he also vowed to win the title at Bound for Glory. Austin Aries versus Jeff Hardy.
Hell of a match.
A hell of a TV match.
Till Jeff Hardy was killed.
They put Aries over about as strong as possible here. He hit a pair of axe handles from the top rope to the floor outside. He missed a missile dropkick in the ring, but when he tried it a second time, he hit it. And then when Jeff cut him off, Jeff went up top for the senton, but Aries jumped up and dropkicked the ropes, and Hardy straddled the turnbuckle. And then came the finish. And the finish was, Aries climbed the turnbuckles. He grabbed Jeff Hardy, who was much bigger than him. He lifted him up in a suplex fashion, held him upside down, and then dropped him to the mat with a brainbuster off the middle rope.
Yeah.
Holy Christ.
And this is not like a brainbuster where you turn the guy over the last second. I mean, it kind of was, but he dropped this dude right on his head and shoulder and neck.
Yeah.
Absolute brutality. And amazingly, Jeff Hardy is fine.
Yeah.
It's funny because there were two incidents on this show where I thought someone was killed. And in both instances, both guys were totally fine. And it's amazing because sometimes you'll hear a guy who's left TNA and or a girl, and they talk about, oh man, I got a major injury in this match. And it's like, I never knew this. I never heard about it. I never saw it happen. I never thought twice about the spot. And meanwhile, here's two guys that I thought got killed right here on live TV. Totally fine. That's how it is in wrestling, everybody.
What was the other one?
When Kazarian was dropped on top of his head by Angle.
Yeah, there was that.
Good God almighty.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was an awesome match.
So Aries wins clean. And then Samoa Joe comes out. And he puts both guys over and then announces that he himself, Samoa Joe, would be the fifth guy in the Ultimate X match.
Samoa Joe, Ultimate X.
Climbing cables.
To which Aries screaming to the camera, that makes no sense.
Well,
That's right.
So, does this mean Joe has the power to book his own matches? Does this mean Dixie Carter is a fan of Samoa Joe?
Maybe Sting booked it.
Can Sting do that?
He booked a match with Magnus last week.
How does Joe get in the match? He just finders keepers?
Sure. The more the merrier in Ultimate X.
Apparently. Then Joe said he would kill them.
How are you going to do that? Scale the cables and fall on them?
I hope his answer to that question is, I will sit back and let them fall off the cables and die. The BroMans made fun of each other backstage for losing to Eric Young and ODB, and Jesse vowed to take care of their biggest problem. Eric Young and Joseph Park were shown in a minivan in the parking lot. They said they were going to leave and drive in this minivan from Orlando to San Diego for Bound for Glory. They drove about 50 feet and slammed on the brakes, and then Eric Young remembered that ODB had a match tonight and he couldn't leave yet.
Apparently, they're going to stop at a lot of sites along the way.
This has potential. This could be great stuff. So the match was, in fact, ODB versus Jessie Goddard. She slapped him a lot. She rubbed his face in her enormous fake breasts, which caused him pain. And then she did the same to Robbie E., and it caused him pain. And then she did the same to her husband Eric, and it caused him pleasure.
Hurt so good.
I suppose it does. So EY and Robbie E. brawled to the back, and it was down to Jessie and ODB, and then Lei'd Tapa arrived. ODB took some hits off her flask and stood her ground. Jessie disappeared, and Tapa attacked, laid her out, hit a fireman's carry stunner, and held up the belt.
So is this match Bound for Glory or not?
I don't know.
Because they did a number one contenders match, which did not involve Lei'd Tapa, who has now attacked numerous women and just beat up the champ.
True. The remaining Aces and Eights members all yelled at each other backstage. Ray said there was so few of them left only due to Ken Anderson. And
I presume this means that he's resigned. I don't know that.
Any other company, I would say for sure, but it's TNA, so who the hell knows? He offered Knox and Garrett a chance to have the spotlight this week. He booked them both against AJ in a handicap match.
I thought at the end of the show, when they were beating up AJ, that Bully was going to drag AJ to the ramp and give him a pile driver, and Mr. Anderson would run down and make the save.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
No. Magnus met with Sting. He said they had a lot to prove at Bound for Glory, called it the biggest show of the year. Magnus was wearing a Save the Tatas shirt.
Sting gave this speech about Bound for Glory. So goddamn funny.
I couldn't even write it down.
It was a speech that Vince McMahon Jr. wrote about WrestleMania, I think. And Sting just changed the words to Bound for Glory. It was so preposterous.
Yeah, he made it a much bigger deal than it
This
really
is where legends are made. Legacies are created. Men become... I'm like, it's Bound for Glory!
It's their November show, except it's October this year. The cameraman tried to go into Ego's locker room.
Actually, it's October every year.
Was it October every year? Because it used to be November. Cameraman tried to go into Ego's locker room, but Kaz and Daniels refused to let them in. This was goofy comedy, and it was fantastic goofy comedy. So I was thinking I'd already gotten my fill of wacky comedy, and then they came out for the next segment.
Ego Hall of Fame induction.
Ego Hall of Fame induction. I didn't recognize this at first, but Kaz and Daniels came out wearing these suits from Dumb and Dumber. One was powder blue, one was Dayglow orange. They were both full suits, complete with top hat and cane. And they came out looking fly. Just looking fly.
You know, by the time this thing was over, I realized it actually wouldn't work. But when it first started, I was like, they've got to all induct each other. Yeah. Over the next month.
Yes.
One by one, they come out and they do the Ego Hall of Fame for each of these separate guys. Maybe they can do it at the end, but I think that the way that it was booked and the way that they worked in angle and the way they set up the match, this was best as a one-off. It was pretty damn good. Maybe they can do the other two inductions later.
So, they said since the Baseball of Fame had failed to induct Jose Canseco, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had failed to induct Judas Priest, and the TNA Hall of Fame had failed to induct Bad Influence, they were starting their own Hall of Fame, the Ego Hall of Fame, and inducting the man who once got busy in a Tim Hortons bathroom, Bobby Roode. Roode came out. They had a giant wooden throne for him to sit in.
I believe that, by the way.
Stranger things have happened. They had a nearly life-size portrait of him. They showed a Bobby Roode highlight reel that showed clips of the women all talking about how he was so sexy and the men all talking about how he was the best of all time. And the gimmick was every time they mentioned his name, it was badly edited to say Bobby Roode. So they were talking about somebody else, obviously. Roode was moved to tears by this video.
I only wish that Kazarian actually put this video together on his own.
I think it's entirely possible. So Daniels called him a true Hall of Famer, not like Sting. He presented Roode into the Hall of Fame. Roode stood, embraced them both, thanked them for all he had done for himself and for Ego, and then he thanked himself.
Yes.
He said he, not Kurt Angle, was the one deserving of Hall of Fame induction. He had been the longest reigning champion in company history, main eventing all over the world, and what had Angle done lately? And before he could answer his own question, Angle appeared. He came up on stage, tore off his shirt, which proceeded to
gigantic.
Quite the ordeal, tearing off the shirt.
He's so big he couldn't get his own shirt off.
Yep. He stepped in the ring and cut a promo. The heels very briefly let him speak, and then they attacked him one at a time. And Daniels ate a belly-to-belly suplex. Kaz ate a German suplex. That was where he landed on his neck. And then Angle went to put the ankle lock on Roode, but Roode escaped, and Angle challenged Roode to a match at Bound for Glory. This was an excellent segment.
It was awesome, but my God, Kurt Angle was the size that he was in like the early 2000s in WWE. Absolutely gigantic. Here in his mid-40s. And then he nearly killed poor Kazarian. He took him straight up and straight back down on top of his head. Oh, my God.
Taz even mentioned Angle's size and said, well, when you're off the road, you can get big real quick.
So he said.
Something very close to that.
You know, you're off recovering. You're not on the road.
Yeah.
Watch that diet, train. Jesus.
So they went to commercial. When they came back, Roode cut an angry promo backstage. He was outraged that Angle had ruined his big night, and he vowed that Angle was going to get it at Bound for Glory.
I suspect this will be the best match on the show, and I'm very excited.
Quite likely. You know, it could be. Really, from a wrestling point, the card looks totally good. Out of the three matches I can think of. Velvet Sky versus Brooke. The winner here would face ODB and Gail Kim in a three-way at the pay-per-view for title match. So there's a match I forgot. Chris Sabin came out with Velvet this week. He's the best heel I ever saw. So Velvet, for as long as she's been in this company, 5 years or whatever it is, she has had an entrance where she bends over through the ropes. She then insists the cameraman shoot her ass as she wiggles her ass against the ropes and then gets in the ring. So she does this pose. She steps through the ropes. She bends over. She arches her back. She points to her buttocks, and the cameraman moves back there. But then Sabin intervenes and throws his jacket over her ass.
It took him 5 years.
And Velvet looks back appalled, can't believe that her boyfriend is not allowing her to show off her flesh, and then she humps the ropes anyway.
Yep.
She just can't help herself. So Velvet's ribs were taped up because she got attacked by Lei'd Tapa last week.
This match was shockingly decent.
I suppose.
Think about this. Brooke against Velvel Holla?
Brooke is, from what we've seen, pretty much fine. Velvet has had many matches worse than this. I will acknowledge that. So Brooke tore the tape off. Velvet made a terrible comeback, I noted.
Yeah, but she's had
many matches
comebacks.
worse.
This was not bad.
She's had many
low
comebacks
standards, I know.
Then Sabin distracted Velvet, apparently trying to give her advice, and Brooke rolled her up for the win. And if I don't ever see that finish again in any company, that would be fine with me.
I love Sabin's sunglasses and headband.
He has some great sunglasses and headband.
I did like the...
he has a great jacket, too.
Covering up spots, at least for heel purposes. Personally, I was appalled. The one thing that drove me nuts was Sabin is... They said he was giving her instructions or something, but it looked like he was trying to show her where Detroit was on the map of his hand.
That could be.
And then she got pinned, and this is a pretty significant matter. She has been knocked out of the women's title match at Bound for Glory because her boyfriend was distracting her. And you would think that there would be like a big blow-up argument, discussion about these matters. They immediately cut to the back. We never heard from them again.
Correct. had a very wacky hype video for Ethan Carter III.
Carter?
Yeah.
Is he Dixie's son?
Perhaps he is. They're also going to try calling him EC3.
This won't work.
Because there's a RG3 you see, and so they're stealing that. And, I can't even describe this except that he was like the ultimate stuck-up star who treated everyone else like they were lowlifes. Right? He was rude to everyone.
Ethan.
Bad Influence versus Sting and Magnus. I thought this match was perfect booking. Having a match, everything's going fine. And then Sting tags in Magnus, and they try a double team, but it goes awry, and they bonk into each other. Not hard enough to knock one guy out of the ring or to the mat or anything, but they bonk into each other, and they look at each other confused, and then the heels attack Magnus and cut him off for the heat. So they got the heat because Magnus and Sting couldn't get along. Couldn't work together. Build up the hot tag to Sting forever. Finally got the hot tag. Place goes apeshit. Going through his comeback. It's perfectly fine comeback. He threw a perfectly acceptable pro wrestling dropkick.
Yeah.
And then Magnus tags in, and he hits the big top rope elbow. And he gets to his feet, and Sting starts shouting, "Cover him! Make the cover!" But Magnus hooks the cloverleaf instead. So he's got him in the submission hold, and Daniels Kazarian fights and fights, and then finally Daniels appears to break up the hold. Sting tags himself back in, deals with the heels, he hits Kaz with a stinger splash and a death drop, and he pins him for the win.
That's right.
So to recap, first they could not work together, they're not on the same page. Then Sting, who is the veteran, realized that in a tag team match, if you can get a quick pinfall, you can win faster than if you get a submission, and the other guy won't have a chance to break up the move. But Magnus, the hotshot, thought he knew best, and he blew off Sting's advice to try to get the flashier submission win.
Yep.
And this nearly cost his team the match. Then Sting had to tag himself in and solve the problem and take care of business, and this left Magnus embarrassed.
Yes.
This was perfect.
It was very, very well done.
Yes. And they had tension afterwards, but they did not fight. They did not shove each other, did not come to blows. Magnus was just a little embarrassed. He left on his own. Sting did the old Hall and Nash overhand point to him, and the crowd cheered, and that was it. This was A+ booking.
It was subtle, but not too subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody played their roles perfectly.
Every character's motivations made total sense.
Yep. It was a very good little storyline here in this match. And then there was even another subtle spot at the end where they go to pose to the crowd, and Magnus starts to walk out, and Sting's like, "Magnus! Like, come on, fucker! Be a professional and let's pose here." But he was just getting out of there. Mm-hmm. He was done. It was great.
This was goddamn great.
This was great.
Dixie met with AJ backstage, trying to get rid of him forever, just offered him a giant check just to go away and go back to Georgia forever. And all I can think of is that's a hell of a way to make someone look like a star. I'm going to pay you a bunch of money to not be on my program.
Yep.
He tore up the check and refused and went out to the ring.
That money could buy a lot, he said, but not me.
Yeah. Main event was Knox and Garrett versus AJ Styles.
Oh, Garrett.
Garrett.
How many people? There used to be 8 people at Aces and Eights.
Mm-hmm.
And one by one, they have vanished because of cost cutting. And I know why he's still there, but it's still ridiculous. Yeah. Nothing against Garrett. I mean, if
every guy who has been fired from Aces and Eights, except for maybe Wes, is better than him.
He has potential. He's got a good look, but he's so green. He can't keep up with AJ.
He fucked up so much
stuff. You never
stuff.
see AJ Styles in a match where there are botched spots, but there were at least 2 in this match.
I counted 3.
3. It's live he's not at this level. And he's still employed while they got rid of... I remember when Doc was signed. And I heard from people in TNA, my God, Doc is so great. You know, WWE totally dropped the ball on Doc. Doc is awesome. What a great worker. He's got everything a person would want in a pro wrestler. Where's Doc now?
Yeah.
Gone. And I'm watching Eric Bischoff's son botch spots in an AJ Styles match. Pretty infuriating, actually, when you think about it.
If anyone else can find me an AJ Styles match with more screw-ups than this, please let me know. So, eventually, Garrett held AJ's arms. Knox went to hit AJ. AJ moved. Knox hit Garrett. And then AJ hit Garrett with what was supposed to be a small package, but it didn't quite work. I'm kind of counting that as one of the botches. And then Garrett had to pretend he could not reach the ropes because it was the finish. And so AJ pinned him and won. And then the Aces and Eights all beat him up, including Bully Ray, who actually called off the other guys, and he whipped AJ with his chain repeatedly. And AJ fought to his feet only to take a backdrop over the top rope to the ramp.
Yeah.
I do not recommend doing this. I don't know what the point was. And then Ray finally laid over AJ and berated him, perhaps telling him, don't take stupid bumps in the ramp for no reason. And that was the end of the show. It was a really good show. The tag match was just pro wrestling excellence.
If you're gonna take a backdrop over the top rope onto the ramp, you know what? At least you're doing it to set up the main event on the biggest show of the year.
I suppose.
Unfortunately, it's TNA and it's bound for glory,
Yes.
so I still wouldn't take that backdrop over the top rope onto the ramp. But it's better than doing it on a random show for no good reason. It's a good show.
Austin and Jeff Hardy was very good. The ego angle was awesome. The Sting tag match was fun. This is a very, very good episode of Impact.
And there was a lot of ass. I sound like a pig on this show. But that Brooke and Velvet match,
Women are in shape.
they are in shape. They are in shape.
Dixie came out with a couple of security guards. They were carrying a briefcase. Well, that's a record. I don't think you've ever broken out laughing on the first sentence before.
I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with you.
No, I'm sure it is. It involves Impact.
No. I've got a buddy who is going to compete in a couple of weeks at a competition, and he needs to lose 2 pounds.
In a couple of weeks?
In a couple of weeks. And he's asked me for help. And I said, well, listen, why don't you send me what you eat in a day, and I will look it over, and we'll start with one change at a time. For example, if you eat an entire box of macaroni, maybe we'll turn that into a chicken breast. And we'll monitor it over the next 3 days, and then we'll make some more changes. And he goes, all right, I'll send you tonight what I ate today. So I swear to God, the first line of his diet, of what he ate today, says, and I quote, didn't eat breakfast, 6 cups of coffee.
That bad?
Wow. That's when he woke up. He did not eat breakfast, and then he drank 6 cups of coffee.
Let's go over the rest of it. What else did you eat?
For lunch, 1 lemonade.
Okay, first change. Eat solid food.
Well, there's more.
All right.
Chicken and beef teriyaki, white rice, cabbage, and 3 fried pot stickers.
Okay.
After work, 2.5 plates of spaghetti, 1 bottle of spaghetti sauce, a 1/4 bottle of Parmesan cheese.
What?
1 fried chicken leg.
He's ribbing you.
And 2 quesadillas with 10 slices of cheese. After Jits, he says,
there's more?
half a thing of saltine crackers. I don't know what this thing is. A dump truck? Few handfuls of nacho Doritos, bowl of thick pineapple, and the
That's good.
final sentence, going to bed hungry, need help.
I don't know what to say, except that I think he's going to lose 2 pounds.
He's 138 pounds, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, now this changes everything. Because you've told me there are some large men in your jiu-jitsu class.
138 pounds.
Is he doing 8 hours of cardio a day?
I don't think so. But apparently, everybody, if you want to drop some weight, my jiu-jitsu class.
I guess so.
It's going to really help.
Because that sounded like a lot of food to me.
Sounds like a lot of food to me as well. All right. Well, I'm sorry I interrupted our impact report for that, but I was caught completely off guard.
All right, so Dixie, 2 dudes in a briefcase. She said she was going to finish her piece of art on Sunday, and she compared herself, and this is how she pronounced it. She compared herself to Michael Angelo. Fans were drowning her out with chants of "We want Hogan." I laughed. She rambled on for a while. I lost interest in what she was saying. She talked about taking AJ out of the pay-per-view main event and putting somebody else in. So she's putting a $50,000 bounty on AJ Styles.
Man, she could have Hulk Hogan for 2 dates for that money.
That's right.
I guess she's got it now. He's gone.
So
here's all the money we didn't pay the Hulk.
So Bully and Brooke came out on the ramp, and Bully made sure she hugged him, and the dumbass cameraman zoomed in on her back, not her ass. So Ray said he may take AJ out himself for that money, but then Magnus came out, and he said $50,000 is a lot of money, especially to these good people here in the crowd, but tonight I want to fight Bully Ray for free. Why should you do that? You should fight for money. Ray
he's young and dumb.
I guess so.
That's the storyline.
Could have promo. In fact, he called Magnus young and dumb. That's what he said. He said he was a fraud. He was all smoke and mirrors. And Magnus dropped him with a punch. And Ray accepted Magnus's challenge for a match tonight.
Yeah. I got to say about Dixie. Again, she's better as a heel than as a babyface. But this is no buys. Dixie Carter, heel GM, is not selling one ticket to anyone. It is not selling one pay-per-view. It is not garnering any interest whatsoever in the product. I don't understand why they're doing this.
To satisfy the boss's ego.
I guess. But she's not even really the boss. This should be her mom's role.
That would be awesome. Like having Granny on the show. So, yeah. Bully Ray was backstage with the Aces and Eights, by which I mean Knox and Garrett. He said last week they had the spotlight. They had taken out AJ. So he said, Knox, tonight you can have the spotlight again, and you can win $50,000. I thought, okay, she's going to fight AJ. Then Ray said, you have a match with one half of the tag team champions. And at that point, I was just bewildered. So the $50,000 was, in fact, a bounty on AJ. But at this point, I didn't know if it was just a bounty on anyone, or a bounty on the champs, or just a best fight bonus. I had no idea what was going on at this point.
Well, I'm thinking he was talking a couple of different things. Go take out AJ, get the $50,000. And if they needed him, he'd be there.
Right. So that never happened, by the way. I guess kind of it did.
No, they went to get him. But then he walked away and they just moved on with their lives.
They didn't
That
try.
is exactly what happened.
They did not try very hard.
No, not at all.
We had a 4-way. Chris Daniels versus Hernandez versus Robbie E versus Eric Young. The winner of this and his partner will get to be the last team in the gauntlet at the pay-per-view. They worked this essentially like a tag match, with Daniels and Robbie taking turns working over Hernandez. Then Young got effectively the hot tag, ran wild for a bit, but they cut him off. And then finally they started going for pins and fighting with each other over who'd actually get to win. Everyone got involved, broke into a 4-way, everyone hit a big move, and it ended with Robbie pinning Daniels. So yes, the BroMans are the last team in the gauntlet.
Because why? Somebody stole a pin.
Yes. Yes.
There's something we've never seen before.
I will take pin stealing over distraction finishes right now. I reserve the right to change my mind later. But right now I am more sick of the distraction finish. Jesse, backstage, attacked AJ to try to collect the bounty. AJ beat him up. That was it. AJ came out for a promo. He dared anyone try to collect. As noted, Knox and Bischoff came out. Which, I don't know. Ray apparently earlier knew that AJ was going to call people out to come collect this bounty. So Knox and Bischoff went out there, fought him for a while. They tried to collect this bounty by hitting him with wrestling moves. Seems odd to me.
Wrestlers,
I guess, but
with a volleyball spike,
a chain. They did, as Ray used in the main event, chairs, all kinds of things that they could use it. You're not trying to win a match. You're just trying to injure him. So Gunstorm came out to make the save. And when I say Gunstorm came out to make the save, what I mean is Gunstorm's music played, and they casually sauntered out to the ring. Mm-hmm. And the Aces and Eights ran away, and the champs had a stare down with AJ, and they teased collecting this bounty, but then AJ just left. And that was it. And that was the last time the Aces and Eights tried to collect this bounty all night. They tried once. It went wrong. They gave up.
To recap, everybody, Gunner and Storm came out, and they ran off Garrett and Knucksy. And Knucksy then proceeded to just have a match with Gunner.
Yes.
The $50,000 bounty. He just was like, well, we didn't get him.
I gave it my best shot.
And it's not even like AJ ran.
No.
Gunstorm came out to make the save, and AJ just calmly held his ribs and just walked away.
He stood in the corner at ringside.
Slinked away, actually. And instead of continuing to try to collect this $50,000, Nux was like, shit, I've been booked for a match with Gunner. I better do it.
I'm sorry, can you say his name one more time?
Yes, I made it into 2 syllables. Gunner.
Anyway, so yes, Nux wrestled Gunner in an infuriating segment. The first thing they did, the bell rang, Nux pushed Gunner into the ropes, and Garrett reached in and grabbed Storm's foot. Now, we say many, many times in TNA that so-and-so did something illegal right in front of the referee. Never has anyone done something so badly right in front of the referee. Usually when it happens, the ref will, too late, but he will realize what's going on and turn his back or tie his shoe or something. This was so blatant that the referee could do nothing but lean over and say, hey, knock it off.
Yes.
So, this flagrant outside interference. What did it lead to? 15 seconds later, Gunner was on offense again. This was a pile of bullshit. Then they had a bad match. They did not work together at all. They were on different pages throughout. Timing was off on everything. There was one point where I think Nux missed a leg drop, but I'm really not sure. It was very hard to tell what was supposed to happen there. So then Nux is winning on him. Storm has spat beer in Garrett's face. And I guess that meant Garrett couldn't fight anymore. So Nux, while on offense, turns up the ramp and cries out for Bully Ray. I guess he wanted Ray to come down and help him get disqualified.
I just wanted help. Because apparently the ref ain't disqualifying anybody based on...
That's a good point. Perhaps this is a no DQ match and I missed it. Bully Ray never showed. Nux turned around. Gunner pinned him with a spear. This segment was dumb, and bad.
Dumb, and bad.
That's what my notes read here.
All right.
Chris Sabin vowed to Velvet that he was going to collect the bounty. Went off to collect the bounty.
She was very unhappy, but he said, I'll buy you something nice.
Nux and Garrett were bitching backstage about Bully's failure to appear and said maybe they wouldn't be there the next time he needed help. This faction must end. Put a knife in this thing. Put it out of its misery.
I expect they get rid of Nux, but they keep Garrett. Bischoff.
Yeah, I know which Garrett. Brooke was backstage taking selfies of her ass. I would like to think this is how she spends her free time.
Actually, funny you should mention that. Let me...
I think the photo she took here seriously did make its way to Instagram.
I was going to check her Twitter.
I believe this is the one. It's actually on our board. Someone linked to it, and she went off on kind of a mini rant about people who accuse her of having ass implants. So, that was the best thing in the show. Gail arrived, said one of them would win the title of the pay-per-view. I presume it's a three-way. I don't know. I don't care. But if Lei'd Tapa showed up and attacked them, they would need to work together to fight her off because she was too big for either one of them. Brooke refused, saying she only worked with Bully Ray.
All right, Brooke Tessmacher's Instagram here. Ah, damn it. This user is private? Can't be right.
Hang on. The board effort of online.
Clearly, I'm looking at the wrong Brooke Tessmacher. User is private. What in God's name? Gotta be kidding me. Why bother even having one if you're going to be private?
That actually is a good question.
Clearly, it's got to be...
Go to the board.
Okay.
Go to the Pro Wrestling folder.
Okay.
Go to the second page.
My God, all the way down there?
That's a week ago or so.
Well, I think somebody would have updated it tonight.
They may have. Well, remember, this show was taped.
True.
So I think this photo was taken last week, because I'm pretty sure this actually is the photo she's shooting here on the show. Oh, no, this is different shorts.
Let's see.
Anyway, second page, the thread is labeled, Brooke Tessmacher.
I see, there it is. Yeah. I don't see it.
You don't see Brooke Tessmacher?
No, I see it, but I don't see the selfie that she took, which is...
The first, click on the link.
Oh, I see it. Oh, there we go. Hey, yeah, that's it.
That's her ass.
Look at that. I mean,
I am.
Brooke Impact. This user is not private. How about that? Man. Buttocks everywhere.
She's gifted.
All right.
Had a hype video for the Ultimate X match. Sabin was stalking the hallways backstage like a cartoon villain. Like Snidely Whiplash, looking for AJ. Instead, he found Samoa Joe. And Joe essentially said he was going to kick Sabin's ass tonight, and Sabin was terrified and ran away. Sabin was awesome here. And then we got Chris Sabin versus Samoa Joe. Chris Sabin did every Ric Flair match ever. Took a savage beating. Then when he finally got some offense, Joe just no-sold everything, and Sabin cowered in fear. Tried to run away. Joe ran him down, but Sabin was able to hit a DDT on the ramp. Tried to win by countout. But Joe got back in the ring. Sabin worked him over for a bit, but then
didn't just get back in the ring. A running dive through the ropes at 9.9.
He actually did like a tope through the ropes, yes. From the ramp into the ring. Eventually, he made a comeback. He hooked the choke, and the instant he got the choke on, Sabin tapped out. Aries ran out. Basically, all the X Division dudes ran out and hit somebody because they're all in the match. And it ended with Manik hitting a dive off the ladder. And then he posed on one corner, and Hardy posed on the other, and Joe posed next to the ladder, and everyone posed. And then suddenly it was to the back.
Manik is like a high-flying daredevil superstar of the X Division, and he did the most tentative high cross off a ladder onto two men that I ever saw. Even I would have been more bold.
They went to the back because Bad Influence is beating up AJ, trying to collect the bounty. He fought them off, and then was able to grab a fire extinguisher and hose them down, and that gave him a chance to run away. Ethan Carter was doing a photo shoot backstage, and he said he was going to make Aunt D proud at Bound for Glory. So, yes, he's Dixie's nephew.
I've got a question. So, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. Dixie has offered a $50,000 bounty for AJ Styles to be taken out so he can't win the title on Sunday, correct?
Yes.
So, the end of the show was a contract signing for the match on Sunday,
yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
So, am I missing something here?
Yeah, the
Why didn't she save her $50,000 and just tear up the contract?
I don't know.
I'll think about this more as we go on.
Yeah, start see if you can make sense out of this by the end of the show. Bully Ray wrestled Magnus. It was a pretty good TV main event. Magnus made his comeback. Ray cut him off, and he went to hit him with a chain, but Sting ran down to stop him. And this distracted the ref, and that allowed Ray to hit Magnus with a low blow and then pin him. So last week, they had the tag match against Bad Influence. I talked about what great booking it was. This was the opposite of that. Sting came off like a goof who couldn't save his friend when his friend was in trouble and ended up costing him the match. And Magnus was a loser who got pinned.
Well, you can't win them all.
No. Magnus confronted Sting backstage. Joe arrived to make peace, and Sting just reminded Magnus they had a match on Sunday. Kurt Angle came out for a promo. Said Bobby Roode was very impressive, but he would never beat Kurt Angle. And then Bobby Roode came out and cut one of the best promos of his career. He said he might have wanted to be like Kurt Angle 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, but he wanted nothing. He had no desire to be the Kurt Angle of today. Said 2 years ago, you beat me at Bound for Glory. Since then, you've done nothing. But that loss, that motivated me to turn heel. Not his exact words, but to do whatever it took to win the title and then hold it for the longest reign in company history. He vowed to beat Kurt on Sunday. They went back and forth for a while. Roode hit him with a sucker punch. Bad Influence came out to make it 3-on-1. After Kurt was soundly beaten, Bobby Roode ordered them to back off, and he put Kurt in a crossface, and Kurt tapped out. This was an excellent, excellent promo and an excellent angle.
Kurt looks like he's hurting bad.
Well, likely.
Yeah.
And then it was time for the main event angle. Bully Ray and AJ had a contract signing. So the story here was that AJ had survived the gauntlet. He got through the night without anyone killing him for $50,000. You know, I've seen some really good bounty angles in the past. Most of them unfold over a greater time frame than 2 hours. So, no one got the $50,000. And Dixie, I guess, had no choice, but to give AJ a title match that he had not yet signed for. Ray signed the contract immediately, cut a promo saying AJ couldn't beat him. Started talking about Ric Flair beating Dusty Rhodes in 1985, then quoted Dusty's hard times promo. And he said he was the one, Ray said that he was the one putting people through hard times these days, and not everything he'd done to Jeff Hardy and Chris Sabin, and he's going to do to AJ, send him unemployed and broke back to his family who would probably leave him. He said he was the Darth Vader of the wrestling business, and you are no Luke Skywalker. Then AJ said, listened to what Ray had to say, collected his thoughts, picked up the microphone and said, you're no Ric Flair and I'm no Dusty Rhodes.
Hell of a line.
Should have said, we're indie geeks. We're B-stars. Went on for a bit, said he was the most intense, desperate man we had ever faced. He was going to make Dixie pay. He was going to become the next world champion. He signed the contract. So after the contracts were signed, I'll repeat that because it seems important. After the contract was signed, Ray changed his mind. So he was not putting the title on the line. He was going to collect the $50,000 right now. And he attacked AJ, and AJ fought him off and stole the briefcase. He opened it and looked at the money, and he threw it all at Dixie and her lawyers, and they bent over to pick it up. And AJ and Ray shouted at each other. And the money, by the way, completely fake. Blatant monopoly money. And show ended with AJ and Ray jibber-jabbering each other. The show ended. And that was Impact.
You know, this was a go-home show for Bound for Glory. And I thought last week's show was excellent. I don't want to say this show sucked, but last week's show, I was way more interested in Bound for Glory than I was after this show. When this show was over, I had less interest than I did on yesterday. Short matches, angles were confusing. Why is there a bounty? Why is there a contract signing? I mean, wasn't the match guaranteed? Isn't that the storyline that he won the Bound for Glory tournament, so he's guaranteed this title shot?
Yes.
What the hell are they signing a contract for?
I don't know.
Why not rescind the contract from him if you are having a contract signing? Why are you having a contract signing at the end of a show or at the beginning of the show you put a bounty on the guy? Why waste your money? Why not just not have a contract for the guy to sign? Why not just fire him? This doesn't make any sense.
No, none.
I don't know. It just this was like the go-home show for WrestleMania. This is their WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I'm
not excited. It would, and I am not excited for the show. But I look at the card and think that should be good. That should be good.
It should
that should be good.
matches.
That should be good.
But I don't see.
But their build for it has sucked.
No, I don't see anyone like. I was excited for Magnus and Sting last week. Not excited this week.
No.
I was excited for. By excited, I mean like, okay, this is going to be fun. Not like I'm going to have a big party and invite all my friends over. Because in fact, no one's coming over to watch this show because I won't be around. I'll be elsewhere. But I'm still going to watch the pay-per-view by myself. But now, boy, it's going to be a long... I shouldn't say that. Like I said, show should be good. But they really dropped the ball here on this go-home show. And there was something else I was going to say about the main event angle, but I completely forget. Just nonsensical. Oh, I know what it was. They really... I don't know what in the hell happened. It's a taped show. I guess they just figured we can't send Bully Ray out again. But his big line about how I'm not defending the title, I've changed my mind. Like, I understood it, but I got emails from people. I got texts from people. Everybody was confused. Like, wait, so there's not a title match on Sunday now? Because that's what he said. After they signed the contract, he said, I changed my mind. Hold on, Dixie. I'm not defending my title on Sunday. And the crowd goes quiet. And then he announced, I'm going to cash in and win the bounty. And then he goes after AJ, and there was a little schmaz. And like, I think they both knew that Bully had screwed up his line, or he delivered the line wrong, because they're both yelling at each other, I'm going to take your title. No, you won't take my title. Yes, I will take your title. They were yelling it as the show went off the air to try to hammer that home. But that line right there, badly delivered, and they really should have done some sort of retake, because it, in fact, did confuse a lot of people on the last show before the pay-per-view, where that's your main event. So, on the bright side, it looked better than the Rampage special that followed. That!
Well, I suppose we should talk about Bound for Glory.
Oh, man. Between Bound for Glory and Raw, what a weekend.
I was fine with Bound for Glory until the main event.
I was fine for Bound for Glory. Actually, you know what? The main event I thought was one of the best things on the show. It was the announcement the next day that AJ's going to wrestle on Thursday that sent me over the edge. Although, we still don't know if he's actually going to wrestle.
I don't care.
They could do what they should do, which is he refuses to show up. And he says, you can't make me work. I don't have a contract.
That's what he said. He said he was going to make her beg and pay. Well, anyway. The show opened with the... first, they showed an AJ Styles video, and they showed his loss to James Storm that meant he could not contend for a title for a year. That was really, really not emphasized enough in the past month or so leading up to this.
You don't say.
Yeah. Ultimate X match.
Remember when you said he was going to make her pay?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody on Twitter tried to explain to me that didn't mean that he was going to hold her up for money. It meant he was going to make her pay for what she'd done.
Okay, by how?
I was like, are you really defending TNA to that level that you refuse to accept that when he said, I'm going to make you pay, that means I'm not coming back until you give me more money? He took his thumb and his first two fingers and he rubbed them together in the universal sign of money. He's holding her up for money. He wants to be paid more to return. Let's just keep that in mind.
Manik versus Jeff Hardy versus Chris Sabin versus Austin Aries versus Samoa Joe in an Ultimate X match. So the whole gimmick of this match is there's cables you got to climb to get to the X, so you don't need a ladder. So Jeff Hardy brought a ladder into the ring.
Yeah, ladder.
Just can't stop myself, I guess.
Well, they needed some way for Joe to almost get the belt.
I guess so.
Because he wasn't climbing them cables.
I guess so. So this was... I mean, it was good, but I've seen a lot of Ultimate X matches. It was the least scary Ultimate X match for sure. Everyone had a chance to show off their moves. Everyone had a chance to look good. And the finish was... I've actually kind of forgotten, so bear with me as I reread this. Sabin rolled outside, and he begged Velvet to interfere. Ordered her to interfere, in fact. And he pushed her into the ring. Hardy, who was about to climb the ladder, he saw this, and he was confused. So he had his back to the ladder dealing with Velvet, and Sabin then stuck up behind him and climbed the ladder and grabbed the belt. And Hardy saw this and ran up there for one more last struggle, and Sabin clonked him with the belt and then fell down with it in his arms to win.
Yep.
So there you go. They showed great moments in AJ Styles' history throughout the show. The first was in 2002 at the Asylum in Tennessee. He beat Jerry Lynn with Ricky Steamboat as special ref to win the very first X Division title. And I wasn't sure what the best part of this was. It was either, as he celebrated, You can see in the background that Slick Johnson was posing for photos with fans. Or AJ's old Born and Raised in the USA theme song.
Oh, that's right.
That was terrible. That was a horrid song. Bad Influence came out for a promo. They had failed to qualify for the title match in the pre-show gauntlet thing. Kazarian said this was embarrassing to everyone involved. Daniel said they had beaten Chavo Hernandez, who I love how they call him Sean. By the way, while we're talking about this, I'm driving around in my car Saturday night. It's about midnight, and I tuned to the sports radio station. It's the overnight national show. And who's on the show but Chris Daniels and Frankie Kazarian?
Yeah.
Plugging this show.
I know. I'm not surprised by Daniels. I guess I'm kind of surprised that Kazarian was there. But Daniels has got a publicist.
I see.
And I don't know why more wrestlers don't have publicists, because his publicist got him on 8,000 different radio shows, TV shows, etc., newspaper articles. I need to get this guy from my publicist.
Yeah, they came off totally great. Talked about how great they were and how great everyone else in the company was, but they were better, and they said, if you get the pay-per-view, you're going to see us, and we're going to win. Well, they did. They were wrong. But they finished, and it ended, and the host said, of course, did the old speech about how I used to watch it back in the days of Junkyard Dog and Jimmy Snuka.
Sure.
Yeah.
Don't watch it anymore.
Been 30 years. Anyway. So they came out and they cut this promo. They said Eric Young and Joe Park weren't even a real tag team. They demanded to be added to the title match because, after all, TNA had but 5 guys in the Ultimate X match and 3 girls in the Knockouts match. So why couldn't there be 3 teams in this title match? Strong point.
Plus, they're constantly swerving, he said.
Yes. So Eric Young interrupted, told them they had created a monster and that they should run. They had no idea what he was talking about. Neither did I, because I did not watch the pre-show match. So they attacked him, but then Abyss came out to kill them. I guess Joe Park bled in the pre-show match.
Yes.
So Abyss came out. The crowd loved him. He laid them out with his finishers. He stared down Eric, and Eric was scared for a minute, but then Abyss helped him up, and they posed. Borash interviewed Gunstorm backstage. They said they would win. Gunstorm versus the BroMans. BroMans have a 3rd member, at least for this show. His name is Phil Heath. He's a giant bodybuilder, a 3-time Mr. Olympia, they said. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. I assume that's the biggest title.
That's as high as you can get in bodybuilding.
Yeah. And this man, trust me, this man was a big deal.
He's a charismatic fella.
And he's big.
He is big, Vinny.
He's very big.
That's how you win Mr. Olympia.
I'll say.
You have to be big and cut.
Cheeseburger would not win Mr. Olympia.
This guy would eat cheeseburger.
Guy's probably eaten a lot of cheeseburgers. He's very big. So, Champs ran wild for a while. There was a point where the crowd was chanting spear for Gunner, which made me laugh, because Ed tried to get that over many times and failed. It occurred to me during this that Jesse Goddard's is really good for his experience level. Like, really good. And I'm totally fine with him being a tag team wrestler and a tag team champion, in fact. And in fact, he's a better tag team wrestler than Gunner, who is not very experienced either, but he's been doing this longer than Jesse has. Jesse's a really good tag team wrestler. Gunner will do things like hit a bunch of moves, and then remember they have the heat on him and fall down.
Well, Jesse works a lot in Ohio Valley, and I'll bet they do a ton of tag team matches.
I was going to say. CNC Wrestle Factory don't. Need to go more. So eventually Storm tagged in. He made a big comeback.
Actually, that's all they do is tag team matches.
Yeah. But not in Ohio Valley, they don't.
No.
Storm got a nasty gash on his leg somehow. He needed a bunch of stitches, he tweeted out a photo. Robbie E. kicked out of a top rope elbow that I think Jesse, after I said all those nice things about him, I think Jesse was supposed to break this up and forgot. Gunner managed to backbreaker Robbie E. onto his head, which I did not know was possible. And the Storm was setting up for a super kick. Robbie threw a title belt into the ring. This distracted the ref and Storm. And then the BroMans hit Storm with a heart attack and pinned him to win. I consider this a clean win.
I do as well.
There was no interference from a third party. No one got hit with any outside weapons. They just distracted the ref and then hit a move and won. Bodybuilder guy never interfered.
Which begs the question why they had to distract the ref, because they did a double team for the finish right in front of the ref anyway.
Well, to be honest, it was more to distract Storm. Storm
see.
was ready to hit the kick.
I see.
Yes.
That makes sense.
It was a very good basic tag match. They showed clips of Kurt Angle's Hall of Fame dinner with perhaps 100 people in a rinky-dink motel room somewhere. Samoa Joe and Magnus and Sting all said nice things about him. I'm sure they meant well, but God, this looked bad. Looked so bad. Then Boras was in the ring for Kurt's induction. And he brought out Sting. Sting put over Kurt for a minute, then brought Kurt out. And to make a long story short, Sting presented Angle with a Hall of Fame watch, said it was time to make it official. Then Angle, who was announced as being in the Hall of Fame months ago, a long time ago, and now, at the stroke of midnight, he decided he did not deserve it. He had let his family and his peers down by not living up to Sting's standards as a Hall of Famer. He did not explain why he had let them all down. So he declined the offer, but he vowed to set a new standard for himself in the industry, and when he had earned it, he would join Sting in the Hall of Fame. And they left together.
Awkward.
Weird. It showed AJ pinning Angle to win the title in 2009. With a springboard 450, which I don't know if they knew it, but that was foreshadowing.
Actually, I'm sure they did that on purpose.
Dixie took a phone call backstage. Ordered AJ's merchandise put on sale at half price, so it wouldn't be in the warehouse after he left. Did she do that, by the way?
I doubt it.
I hope so. ShopTNA.com.
Let's find
There'd
out.
be a big banner saying AJ Styles merchandise half price.
Let's see if they did that.
Loading very slowly.
I'll do it. You continue on.
All right.
Maybe because everyone's up there getting his stuff half price.
Maybe that's it. Ethan arrived. She said she had handpicked the perfect opponent for him. And then they said their family catchphrase, which is, "The world needs us. We're the Carters."
Man, this is slow.
ODB versus Gail Kim versus Brooke. They claimed Brooke was a 2-time Knockouts champion.
Is that true? I presume it is.
I remember nothing about that. And I do not want to have...
I remember her winning it once in her hometown. I don't remember the second time.
I kind of do remember that because she had like the Texas-themed gear on.
All right, Shop TNA finally opened up here.
Still hasn't for me.
It's very slow. And I don't think... Let's check my own website, see if it's the internet as a whole.
Oh, it might be.
It may just be slow internet. All right, well, TNA, you're off the hook for this one. Unless it's the same server. No, internet's slow.
It's up for me now.
God damn it.
I do not see AJ Styles half off. What I do see is purchase the latest MP3s.
MP3s? Of what?
Apparently theme songs. Maybe you can get Born and Raised in the USA.
I'll search AJ Styles products.
So, ODB and Brooke here in this championship match used their buttocks and vaginas as weapons. Don't ask me. That's what happened.
Par for the course.
The announcers got bored very quickly. Started talking about hairdos and fashion. Gail put Brooke in the ring post figure 4, and Taz called this move the big post between the legs.
Well, if his stuff is half off, it was pretty damn expensive. This t-shirt here, $24.99. I am skeptical that this is half off.
You can get TNA, the Black Album.
I think that whoever she contacted did not do as she asked.
Okay, for $1 each, you can get 6 songs, or you can buy them all for $5. You can get Joseph Park's song, Joey Ryan's song, the Aces and Eights instrumental. Because Lord knows, after hearing that 17 times a week on Thursdays, you want to hear it again. Kenny King's song, Zima Ion song, and Chavo Guerrero song. It's
Man,
one collection.
What a deal.
That's a deal for $5. So ODB carried both of her challengers around the ring in a fireman's carry. Hit Gail with a TKO onto Brooke. She made the cover, but there was no ref. Then Lei'd Tapa arrived. ODB went up on the ramp to brawl with her. Got her ass kicked. Brooke tried to dive from the top rope to the ramp, but Tapa caught her. And from the ramp, powerbombed her back into the ring. That was cool. And then Gail jumped on Brooke to win the match and the title. And Tapa teased knocking Gail out too. But then she presented her with the belt. So, the diminutive black-haired women's champion has been paired with the giant Polynesian woman who has family in the business.
Yep.
Where have I seen this before?
Man, I'd have to think. Something with, I don't like to overanalyze my wrestling, as you're all well aware. But what's up with this Lei'd Tapa?
That's the question?
Yeah.
Well.
So she's a big girl that comes from backstage in her outfit. She chills out back there?
Yeah.
She flies from town to town?
Yeah.
Huh.
And they play her music, and she goes out and kills people.
That's kind of weird, huh?
Like that hasn't been done 100 times before.
I just wanted to bring it up here.
Yes, wrestling is weird sometimes.
Okay.
That's true. Had a new interviewer guy backstage interviewing the BroMans. He had a fantastic celebration when they poured protein shakes all over themselves.
Sounds lewd.
It
sounded bad on paper.
I suppose, but...
And they still did it.
I don't know if they're... I hope it's a permanent trio, because just having the Heath guy, the Mr. Olympia, just having him there as a cheerleader is great.
I like Phil Heath. And his name I find funny. Phil Heath. I don't know why.
I almost called him David Heath, who was not Mr. Olympia.
I think anyone who's got a first and last name that's one syllable, I always find funny. Phil Heath.
You've mentioned this before.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. But people pointed out names to you such as Ric Flair.
Oh, sure.
Bret Hart.
Well, you know.
There's exceptions.
Bret Hart's kind of funny, isn't it?
I suppose.
Bret Hart. Phil Heath. Gunner. See?
James Storm.
James Storm? He doesn't count. Lance Storm?
Lance Storm.
It doesn't count if it's a cool name. You know. Lance Storm and James Storm both have the word storm in them.
Brian, you make us so wise.
That's a cool name. But Phil Heath? It's a verb and a candy bar.
Delicious candy bar. Borash interviewed Roode. He said he was inside Angle's head. That's why Angle had declined the Hall of Fame invitation. He vowed to make Angle tap out. And we got Kurt Angle versus Bobby Roode. Kurt ran wild a bit. Then Roode started working over his neck. Had a heat segment that was basically one long chin lock. And then it became every Kurt Angle match ever. He threw a bunch of suplexes. He missed his moonsault. He went for his submission and got countered, and then Roode went for his submission and got countered. Went back to the suplexes. A bunch of ankle locks again. The ref started to... Kurt got the ankle lock, and the ref started to drop Roode's arm 3 times to see if he was passed out. But he lifted up the arm and then dropped it onto the rope. And that necessitated a break.
What an idiot ref.
That's some shitty refereeing.
We need Dana White to cut a promo on this idiot ref. Screwed up the whole match.
Quite insane Kurt Angle hit an angle slam off the top rope. This led to a long double down. Kurt just lay there, arms and legs splayed, and Roode rolled over and covered him and got the win.
Yeah.
So Angle injured himself hitting a move. They brought out the back brace and the neck brace, and they were going to carry him out, but he refused. He waved them off, and he walked off backstage on his own.
Storyline is it's time to hang him up, dude.
It was the best match in the show.
Kurt looked like he was racked in pain. Whole match.
True. That is
Poor
true.
guy. It's impossible that he's not.
Well, yeah. They showed AJ pitting Sting for the title in 2009. They showed him winning the title so many times, it kind of made it silly to think that he may just win it again here. He's done it a bunch of times before already. Bully Ray gave his gang a pep talk. We never saw any of them. We only saw him. But he implied that Devon and some of the other guys were back, although he never actually mentioned their names.
Nor did anyone ever show up?
Oh, we'll get to that.
That's your TV tease.
I suppose. Ethan Carter III versus the mystery opponent. Mystery opponent was an incredibly skinny geek, although not... I was very impressed by how skinny this man was on Sunday. Having just seen Cheeseburger, this guy was a Greek god. They said his name was Norv Furum. I know Lance on Twitter popped about the name and said it was Taz's idea, at least the Furum part. I think Norv was a rib on former San Diego Chargers coach Norv Turner.
Norv Furnham.
Furnham?
Yes.
Furnham.
It was not the double one-syllable name. Although Norv Fern would have been funny.
Yes, I've tried to say Furum, but anyway. I did like Taz's line where he said the skinny man was wearing a youth large singlet. So, here on the biggest show of the year, we got a squash match. Fans told them it was boring. They were correct. Norv Furnham got some offense. Hit a high cross body for a near fall. And then Ethan Carter won with the headlock driver. And it was later pointed out that he has been using that move in developmental since before Dean Ambrose started using that move. That doesn't matter. Dean Ambrose has been using the move on the biggest show in the biggest company for almost a year now on national TV. No one's ever seen Ethan Carter before, except devoted NXT fans. Did he ever make it to the main roster? I don't remember.
He may have done some house shows. I forget.
Yeah, so it comes off that he's stealing the move from Dean Ambrose.
Yes.
And the match is nothing to be excited about. Borash interviewed Magnus. We've got a hell of a promo about what an honor it was to face Sting in Sting's home territory. He was desperate. He had a date with Destiny, and she is getting impatient. Heel turn coming. Sting wrestled Magnus. They attempted to condense the Sting-Ric Flair match into a 10-minute version and failed very badly. Sting hit the splashes and got the Scorpion about 3 minutes in. Magnus powered out. Sting started laying in the strikes, and Magnus did Sting's own no-sell and then the flex and shout. So Sting did that, and he got the Scorpion again.
What did he do?
I said flex and shout like he was the Beatles, yes.
I can't wait till Thursday.
Ah, Christ.
Can you kind of say it a little sing-songy so we can...
Not helping.
Okay.
Flex and shout. All right.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, this is all way more exciting than the match. Sting got the Scorpion again. Magnus got the ropes. No one cared. And Sting kicked out of the top rope elbow. And finally, Magnus put him in a cloverleaf, and Sting fought for a while and tapped out. This was met with mild boos. And I don't mean weak alcohol. I mean the crowd didn't care. Sting tried to offer a handshake, but Magnus blew him off repeatedly, and they gave him a very half-assed greeting and then passed him by and left. And like I said, if they wanted to make Magnus a big star, they failed.
Well, he beat Sting. Now they got to follow up. But yes, this was not...
He beat Sting in a shitty match.
When you have people calling me the next day for the call-in show, and they're asking is it possible that Sting just tapped out for the guy in storyline, you didn't do a very good job.
No, you did not.
If Sting's going to tap out, it should have been...
In sympathy?
It should have been like, he makes it to the ropes, he gets pulled back. He makes it to the ropes again, he gets pulled back. He escapes, he gets put back in, he makes... it's got to be like... it's got to be like a battle that finally he could not win. Instead, he just got put in a move and he gave up. So, yeah, it didn't quite work.
And it's time for the main event. Bully Ray and AJ Styles. After all, a year's build-up. More than a year, in fact. So they're wrestling. About 3 minutes in, AJ hooks his calf killer. It was a no DQ match. Should mention that. So Garrett Bischoff then comes out. And he hands Bully Ray a hammer. And then he leaves.
Yeah. Well, he kind of got chased to the back, but yes, he just in a no DQ match, he came out and just kind of left.
Mm-hmm. They tried to hit each other with a hammer, fell out of the ring, so they did wrestling moves. Go get the hammer, you idiots! Ray started doing Hulk Hogan's ear cup. As I wrote down here at the time, there had better be a big fucking payoff to all these angles by the end of the show. By the way, I'm not giving enough credit to how, at least in my living room, how the air went out of the place when Garrett Bischoff showed up. And that's not a knock on Garrett Bischoff. It's just...
Who watched the show with you?
No one.
Oh.
It was just me by myself. But just I let out an audible sigh and was... if this was not my job, even though I paid my own money to watch the show, I would have turned it off at that point. Who turns into a pay-per-view hoping to see a bunch of angles? I just want to see a wrestling match.
I was most infuriated because, A, it was a no DQ match, and the guy didn't just... I mean, I would have been fine if Garrett would have run in and it would have been 2-on-1.
Yeah.
Until a babyface made the save. That would have at least made sense.
Yes!
Instead, he came out, he threw in a hammer, and then he got chased, and he ran away and never came back.
No, he didn't even get chased. The ref said, leave. And he said, okay. All right. So,
And it happened like 4 minutes into the match.
Yes, immediately. Before these guys even had a chance to draw me into the match, he had interference to let me, as a viewer at home, know everything that's going to happen here is going to be silly, so don't get involved.
The former Derek Bateman did in fact have at least one match on SmackDown and at least one match on Saturday Morning Slam. So he did have a couple of WWE appearances aside from NXT Redemption.
So they did a spot where Bully Ray kept chopping the piss out of AJ, and AJ just dared him to hit him harder. Then Knox arrived in the ring. He chokeslammed AJ. Bully Ray made the cover. AJ kicked out. Ray blamed Knox for this. Here was where I started to wonder where Garrett went. Perhaps he went home. He showed up, passed Ray a hammer, then left for the next 20 minutes, never seen again. So Ray throws a clothesline at AJ. AJ ducks. Ray clotheslines Knox, apparently killing him because he was never seen again either. Fans were so enthused about AJ fighting off 3 men that they said they wanted tables. Then the most horrifying thing in the entire show happened. He laid Ray out on a table. He went into the ring and tried to do a springboard 450. Bully Ray dodged. AJ went through the table at about Mach 4. And behind the table, there were 2 folding chairs set up. And then in between them was cement. And he may have hit all 3 of them at a great rate of speed with his face.
Mm-hmm.
This was terrifying.
Thought he killed himself. Legit thought he killed himself on pay-per-view.
Yep.
Looked like he landed right on his face. And I think he may have legit injured rib cartilage, as they claimed on the TNA website. Yeah. But this was just like... But you know what? I've said a million times, if you're going to nearly kill yourself, at least do it at WrestleMania. And this wasn't WrestleMania, but it was TNA's version of WrestleMania. And it was, at least he did it here and not on your average Impact. Although, granted, if he would have done it on Impact about 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the number of people would have seen it. But still, don't do stuff like this. But if you're in WWE, if you're going to do it, just save it for WrestleMania. Don't kill yourself on Raw or Battleground, for Christ's sake.
So, as AJ was on the floor dying, Bully Ray grabbed a knife and he cut up the ring. And every time he does this, I think, why don't you just go over and stab the guy?
It's no DQ.
Yeah.
Just kind of cut him a little.
He'll quit. He'll quit quickly. He tore up the ring apron and he pulled away the mats and revealed the hardwood. Then Dixie came out. Did all this. Then he started shouting at the back to send them out. So the squad of invisible men he had been talking to earlier, apparently this was their cue to interfere. But they didn't come out. Dixie came out instead. And Ray looked confused. So she handed Ray a chair, and then turned around and AJ forearmed it right into his face. Dixie was concerned. So AJ hit the springboard 450 and made a cover. Dixie ordered the ref not to count. And the ref kind of said, he argued with her for a minute and then countered 1, then argued with her for a minute and countered 2, and then Ray kicked out.
I got to tell a funny story about this spot. Dixie Carter is the owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that the owner tells the referee, do not count. And he's like, shut up. He just goes to count anyway. And the reason I bring this up is because I had the call-in show Monday, and somebody who was at Bound for Glory called. And he was talking about, I think it was one of his buddies or somebody that was near him was wearing a bunch of Hulk Hogan stuff. And they didn't want the guy wearing the Hulk Hogan stuff to be right there in the front row across from the hard camera. So what do you think they did?
I don't know.
Yes. What would you do?
Give him another seat next to the hard camera, in fact, so he'll never appear on TV.
They came out and they said, we really don't want you wearing that on TV across from the hard camera. Will you please take it all off and we'll give you this Hernandez shirt?
Okay.
So he said, no.
Okay.
And so apparently they were like, come on. Will you please take the stuff off? We'll give you this Hernandez shirt. And he said, no. And so in the end, he didn't take it off. It's just like...
Man, he showed him.
Tell the fucking guy to take the shirt off or kick his ass out. If you don't like it, you just look like idiots when you go, will you please take it off? No. Oh, okay.
So, yes.
And that's exactly what they did in storyline as well. Hey, Earl, don't count. Listen, woman, I'm counting. 1. He counted.
Yes. So, they teased a bunch of spots on the wood. And finally, AJ hit the Pele kick. And then he hit the spiral tap. And he covered the man. And Dixie, who had ordered the ref not to count, was watching and not doing anything. No Garrett. No Knox. None of the other guys he had been talking to. Everyone just watched. And the ref, who had been ordered not to count 3, just counted 3 anyway.
Yeah.
Taz was right there at ringside.
They do what they want in TNA.
Brooke was right there at ringside. Dixie was right there watching on. None of this made sense. Taz had just watched his leader lose the world championship to their most hated rival. He sounded, at best, mildly annoyed. I will say that every time AJ grabs, this is the first time he had the belt, but every time AJ goes to celebrate in the crowd, they go nuts for him.
I liked the end of this match. I liked the near falls. I liked the finish.
Why?
With
Dixie looking on and the ref saying, hey, I'm counting.
Yeah.
Well, that was dramatic for you?
Well, you know what?
The fact that each cover took 30 seconds to be resolved?
I like the fact that, you know what? Let's wait till Thursday to find out why nobody came out. Because you know what? Maybe
I don't want to have to wait until Thursday on the biggest show of the year.
But maybe everybody just turned on Bully. He ain't got no friends. They just gave up on him. He was on his own. He lost the title.
I stand by my claim.
You know what? He got in the crowd. Everybody went crazy. They loved AJ Styles. There was a grown man that literally hugged him and kissed him. That's how excited these people were.
That is true.
And after watching every goddamn single heel on the show win, I was very happy to see a babyface win in the main event.
Is that true?
I don't care. And you know what? I don't think that the guy in the Hulk Hogan outfit should have had to take his outfit off. All I'm saying is that when you're in charge and you have the power to do whatever you want, and you don't want a guy wearing an outfit across from the hard camera, then you tell the guy to take it off, and if he doesn't, then you move him. You physically have security, move him. You have the right to do that. But to just pussyfoot around and ask him and then not enforce it at all, I don't know. That's just reminded me of the whole Dixie Carter thing. Good for that guy, by the way. He said no, and he got away with it. That's bad for glory, everybody.
It sure was.
Yeah. Apparently, I have determined that people hated this show a lot more than I did.
I didn't hate it until the main event. And that's not a reflection on Bully Ray. That's not a reflection on AJ Styles. It's a reflection on the company as a whole.
Well, there were a lot of problems on this show. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just going to save my vitriol. I had a lot of vitriol on Monday's show that unfortunately apparently made some people uncomfortable. I'm not sure what they want in a radio show. Everyone to be hugging and kissing the whole time. But we'll see what happens on Thursday. If AJ Styles gets in that ring for the main event to defend the TNA title when he has no contract with the company, supposedly, and doesn't need to be there, just be ready, everybody. There may not be a call-in show, and there may be no granny.
You may shut the company down.
Or I'll just give up.
Yeah.
You know? Every now and then, I do have a little bit of passion. Every now and then I do think, it'd be nice if everybody in wrestling wasn't an idiot. If things were good. It would be nice, So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that Thursday's going to come, and Dixie is going to demand AJ get in the ring and defend the title, and AJ just shows up outside the building and says, you know what? Fuck off. I don't have a contract. I ain't doing this. Then I'll be happy, because that will make sense. I know that everybody is waiting for me to just absolutely flip my lid, and I'm not gonna. I flipped my lid on Monday, and I got most of it out of my system, and in fact, now I just don't care. So if you're expecting a lot of ranting and raving tonight, I hate to disappoint. You're not going to get it, but it may slip out here and there. We'll see what happens.
Okay. So, Dixie came out. She's got her own song, which she's had for a while. She also has a video that proclaims that this is Dixieland. She was all full of smiles. The ring was decorated with AJ Styles merchandise and a big Welcome Back AJ Styles banner.
Black and white.
It was not a
Can't afford color.
It's not a very fancy banner. It was plain font, black letters on white background. This crowd was amazing. When they started booing her here, I was certain it was piped in. But then they started chanting, "We want AJ," and you could see people chanting it. This is their actual sound. And by the end of the show, the announcers couldn't believe how loud this crowd was, asking why it had taken them so long to get to Salt Lake City, and now they will never go back.
Well, last week they were very loud as well, and there was nobody there either. So I think that when you run an Impact show, you're not going to get like a lot of casual fans, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the actual Impact fans that care enough to go out and watch the show, they are very excited for the show. And that was evident the last 2 weeks now. Mm-hmm. But yes, it's coming to an end.
So, she admitted she had made a mistake. She did not want to talk about the past. She wanted to talk about the future. And that was, future was AJ. She brought him out. He came out with his belt. Dixie sucked up to him for a while, said he had been in a slump for a year, and then her brilliance had turned things around for him. She said she was ready to pay, going to give him a fancy dressing room almost as nice as hers, a watch that used to be Hulk Hogan's, although she did not mention him by name, a brand new convertible, and finally AJ said, "This material stuff is not what I was looking for when I said I was going to make you pay. I drive trucks, I don't drive convertibles. I have no desire to separate myself from the locker room. You bet against me, and you lost." And finally, she said she was going to cancel his title match against Bully Ray if he would agree to a deal. And before he could answer, Bully Ray came out and we went to commercial.
I said this on Monday, and I'll say it again. Their idea was that they were going to do this. They were going to do it right. They were going to do CM Punk leaving WWE as champion. They felt that WWE screwed it up and they were going to do it right. And so the angle kicks off with AJ Styles coming back to Impact with the belt and putting it on the line in a wrestling match. He has no contract. So, really, I think the reason that I wasn't upset about this show is because, like I said, I got all of my ranting and raving out on Monday. They killed the angle in the opening segment. And from that point forward, it was just another wrestling angle, and it was all right. I shouldn't say the angle was all right. It was just another wrestling show, and the wrestling show was all right. If you ignore the fact that the main angle is completely idiotic, this was a fine wrestling show. But if you're going to this show wanting to get involved in the product and wanting to enjoy the angle and wanting to get sucked into a storyline, this was not the show for you. It was so dumb. He shows up with the belt. Taz, who is in Aces and Eights, which, by the way, they've forgotten as well because AJ is doing a promo about how there's only 3 members of Aces and Eights. Totally forgetting Taz. Taz is like, and this was his exact words, I'm bummed. Your buddy lost the world title to AJ Styles, and you're bummed. So, yeah.
So that was the first segment. The second segment had Bully Ray and AJ and Dixie in the ring, and I lost my place in my notes, but here we are. So Ray was upset that his rematch was being taken away for no reason.
Why is he getting... What do you mean a rematch? The guy isn't under contract.
Are you yelling at me or them?
Them.
Okay. Well, that's what AJ pointed out. He said he was not under contract, and so he was not... what's the word? He didn't have to defend it because he was not under contract. That's what AJ said.
Or show up.
Yeah. But he said he was going to defend the title because that's what champions do. They fight for free. So they
fight for free in a storyline where he's holding her up for money.
Yes. Well, he's not. Bryan, he explained. He hinted here and made it very clear at the end of the show he is not holding her up for money.
So what is he holding her up for?
We don't know. So they talked smack for a while. Then they got into a brawl, and Ray started to attack him with furniture. He was about to powerbomb him through a table when the lights went out. Mr. Anderson's music played. Then Mr. Anderson actually ran down to the ramp, which guys don't often do these days. Sometimes they just do their normal stroll down to the ring to make a save. So he ran out there. He brawled with Bully Ray, beat him up in the corner. Crowd was going nuts for this, just nuts. And finally, Ray ran away, and they went to commercial. That was segment number 2. Segment number 3, Mr. Anderson was still in the goddamn ring. Said everyone was sick of Bully Ray. He was sick of Bully. People at home were sick of Bully. He asked the fans at home, or in the building, are you sick of Bully? This was a mistake, because all it did was encourage them to chant, yes, yes, yes. Dixie came out, ordered her security team to handcuff Anderson and remove him from the building. He laid 2 of them out, and then the remaining 2 guys and Anderson had perhaps the worst stare down I've ever seen. They all just kind of crouched and put their hands out in front of them like a really bad amateur wrestling stance. And then finally Anderson just gave up, and they put cuffs on him, and they took him out.
So he's not holding her up for money. And the one thing that he's got that she wants is the World Heavyweight Championship belt. And so his first move is to return to Impact for free, flying himself in presumably on his own dime, and offering to put the championship on the line against Bully Ray. Am I missing anything here?
Best as I can tell, you have that all right.
And you know what else? Just one more thing. When Bully and AJ are face-to-face, and AJ announced that he's not under contract, and then he says, I'm going to defend the belt anyway. And Dixie Carter, who is standing between them, says, and I quote, you don't have to do this. So she's forgotten her own storyline. She has forgotten when on Sunday after the pay-per-view, she demanded he show up tonight to defend the title. Now she's saying you don't have to do this.
Well,
does she want the title off of him or not?
She was saying you don't have to do this because you can get out of it by signing a new contract.
I see.
Yes.
But if he's not signing the new contract, wouldn't she want him to put the title on the line so that Bully could take it back to the company? Because he made it pretty clear he wasn't signing a contract.
I suppose so, yes.
Storyline sucks.
It does. It does. So then something amazing happened 40 minutes into this episode. We got a wrestling match.
CM Punk at least waited a week before he came back.
Yes, he did.
AJ's back in the first segment of the next show.
Yes, he was.
It's not like I didn't call this, everybody.
So the match was Gail and Brooke versus Velvet and ODB. It was every Brooke and ODB match you ever saw. They do the same stuff every time. They all brawled on the floor. Gail grabbed a chair to distract the ref. And then Lei'd Tapa hit the ring. She booted Velvet in the face, and Gail covered her to win. The BroMans were...
It was actually better than you would expect, really.
It was one of Velvet's better days.
She didn't have to do a lot, but what she did was all right. And by the way, just going back very quickly, you know how I called what they were going to do with this storyline? Because it was the most nonsensical thing possible. When I thought to myself, what is the quickest way to kill this storyline dead? Basically before it's even started, really. And that would be for AJ to return and wrestle on Impact. Which he proceeded to do.
The BroMans celebrated their victory backstage and promised a celebration later tonight.
Yes.
Ethan Carter 3 versus Dewey Barnes. First thing, Christy's mic was apparently fucked up, as it took her 3 tries to introduce Carter. So Dewey Barnes, I don't know where they have this cavalcade of skinny indie geeks, but this guy comes out.
I'm sure they're everywhere,
Well,
Vinny. You wrestled.
That's true. I mostly saw fat indie geeks. But this guy came out, and he had a black bodysuit with silver trunks over it, which is an amazing look. He was very happy to be out there on TV. Got beat up for a while. They pointed out Halloween was next week, so be sure to set your DVR so you don't miss Impact when you're out trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Because candy is better than the show. So, it's a squash match. It's boring. And then Dewey makes a comeback. And first, Dewey threw... He threw some Vinny V punches. They were very bad. Very, very bad punches. Then he went up top, and he hit a very bad missile dropkick. And I was trying to figure out why in these squash matches Ethan Carter keeps selling for these guys. And then he grabbed him, and he hit his headlock driver. And Dewey Barnes took perhaps my new favorite bump of all time. He bumped onto his head and bounced up in the air and flipped over onto his back. Like a fish.
Yeah, did a full flip.
It was awesome. And Ethan Carter then pinned him.
There was one thing I didn't like about this segment. Everything else I thought was great. I didn't like that Ethan Carter was selling for this horrendous offense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when the offense is so bad, you bring in a new guy in to do a squash match, have him do the comeback before the show and see how good or bad it is. And this comeback was so bad that Ethan Carter selling for it killed the Ethan Carter gimmick. Now, other than that, I thought this was awesome. I know that some people were complaining that the jobber got his own entrance and ring music. Of course he did. Because the idea is that Dixie is hiring geeks, but she wants you to think that they are actually great wrestlers. So they get their own big entrance. They get introduced second. They get all of the pomp and circumstance of a big star. And then her nephew kills them. It's the idea here.
I see.
That's exactly what happened. This guy was a love child of Bob Backlund and Christian. And if you look at him, that is exactly.
That's funny because it's true.
It is. Listen, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but there's no better comparison in the world for this man than the love child of Bob Backlund and Christian. And if you can watch this match and not see that, then you're blind. And he was awesome with this. His comeback was horrendous, but goddamn, that bump he took for Dean Ambrose's finisher was incredible. He landed right on his head. It's like when Rob Van Dam takes the pile driver, but instead of just going straight up in the air and landing on his back, he went straight up in the air and did a full flip and landed on his ass. I don't even know how he did it, and I was a gymnast.
He flipped forward.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And as I recall, when Rob took that one pile driver, as he bounced 18 feet in the air, he was also waving and windmilling his arms around.
Yeah.
Dewey Barnes, as soon as his head hit the mat, his arms went to his side and just stayed there.
Amazing.
Immediately went comatose.
This segment ruled. Poor Ethan couldn't even keep a straight face through any of this.
Sting and Magnus had a meeting backstage. Magnus admitted he had not shown Sting the proper respect after their match at the pay-per-view. Thanked Sting for the opportunity. Sting said, "That's cool. Don't worry about it, but I'm not sure I've lit a fire under you." Magnus said, "It's your world and I'm just living in it." Then they shook hands. I have no idea what either one was talking about.
Well, he's turning heel. That's
Well, I know that, but they showed clips of Angle going into the Hall of Fame and then not going into the Hall of Fame.
I got a great new idea for this. Just like when they did the Ego Hall of Fame, and they need to all induct each other over the course of the next few months, they need to induct a new guy into the Hall of Fame every year, and he needs to decline. When Sting said, "It's the only member of the Hall of Fame," it's like, it's been 2 years. I think next year the inductee should be like, who could it be? Somebody who also doesn't think they're deserving. Or maybe they could announce somebody for the Hall of Fame, and then he does a storyline retirement.
Yeah, announce Jarrett, and then say, "I can't go in because I lost the company."
Yes. And every year you tease someone going in and they decline. And so Sting is just, in 10 years, he's old with a gray beard. Only guy in the TNA Hall of Fame. I like this idea.
So, Angle cut a promo, much of it repeating what he said on Sunday because the TV audience did not see him on Sunday. Admitted he knocked himself out of the pay-per-view. Then Bobby Roode came out. He bragged about his win. Angle said, "You're not better than me," and challenged him to a match. Roode then presented paperwork saying, "You tore your knee cartilage at the pay-per-view. You are not clear to wrestle." And Angle said, "That's true, but I can fight." And they brawled, and security separated them.
And now they're going to wrestle next week, so his knee cartilage is guaranteed to be cleared up?
I guess.
I'd feel pretty stupid if I bought that pay-per-view at this point.
Yes, I do. Bully Ray gave a pep talk to the 2 remaining members of the gang backstage. What happened to everyone he was talking to? Was he out of his mind and was he delusional and seeing things?
Maybe
hallucinating?
Maybe he was just trying to play mind games.
Does he have imaginary friends?
Or they forgot. I don't know. Maybe he was playing mind games. I'll presume he was playing mind games.
I'll presume they're fucking stupid.
Wow.
So he gave a pep talk to his 2 guys. Said, "Look, first he said Anderson was being selfish. Then he said they needed to get that through their thick skulls, but he said that because he loved them. And he said, I'm going to go wrestle AJ and get my title back. You go to prison and make sure Mr. Anderson does not post bail."
So he said, go to jail and make sure he can't post bail. How are you going to do that? What is your plan? Distract the officers? Make sure all the pens are out of ink?
Buy the bail bond service and then don't give out any.
Yeah, how are you going to make sure he doesn't post bail? The most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. Except for a guy wrestling without a contract, putting his title on the line.
Speaking thereof, they had a segment where Dixie was ordering different things put into a contract and then her assistant shut the door. It's accomplished nothing. The BroMans came out for the celebration.
No Phil Heath. Very disappointed.
He had one appearance on a pay-per-view that nobody saw.
So disappointed. But there was salami.
There was salami and champagne and silly string and a DJ. Yes, a DJ in the ring spinning beats for him.
Yeah, that was salami. There was not an actual salami.
I see.
And champagne was the drink, not the wrestler.
Also a good point. I thought they called him, I was confused. I thought Robbie said the DJ's name was DJ O.
He was, but Taz said his name was Salami.
I thought Taz was just fucking around. Maybe I'm wrong.
Does it fucking matter what the name of the goddamn DJ was?
No, it does not. At all. So, they celebrated until Gunstorm came out. Gunstorm, you recall, lost the titles clean in the middle of the ring. So they came out here to ruin the party like assholes. They kicked out the DJ. They stole the alcohol. They stole the protein bars. Said they were going to win next week and get their titles back when Bad Influence came out. Kaz said none of these teams deserve to be champions. Daniel said losers drink beer, posers drink champagne, real men drink appletinis. Somewhere in here, Kaz pointed to, I think it was Jesse, and asked, why are you so sweaty?
Why are you sweating so much? It's a good question.
It was a fine question. So Gunner threw the Appletini in Daniel's face. A brawl broke out.
At which point Taz revealed he broke kayfabe, and he revealed that there was never any alcohol in his Appletinis. Like, what? You idiot! His eyes were supposed to be burning because he got an Appletini thrown in his eyes, and Taz reveals, well, there's never really any alcohol in there.
So, Eric Young and Joseph Park ran out. They wanted to brawl too. Daniels broke a champagne bottle over Park's head. Then he ran away, and Park bled, went crazy, and he chokeslammed Jesse, and he chased Bad Influence backstage.
I still can't get over this Appletini deal.
Is that really the stupidest thing on this show?
It's actually, you know what? It's way up there. Because it's one thing to offhandedly mention that the guy never really actually puts any alcohol in it when he comes on television. But when the angle is built around the alcohol being thrown in the guy's eyes, and then you reveal there's never really any alcohol in the Appletini, yeah, that's a big deal. But no, it was not the dumbest thing on this show. That's next.
When AJ Styles wrestled?
AJ Styles, without a contract, was so angry at Dixie Carter, and he was so itching for revenge and so determined to make her pay that he showed up on her television show and agreed to wrestle in her main event and put his title on the line for free. That is how they are doing this better than WWE. Not making this up, everybody. He actually got in the ring and had a match for the championship on iMPACT for free.
So they're having this match, and Bully goes for a flapjack. And I don't know if AJ thought it was a backdrop or what happened, but the point is, AJ, who, as they pointed out, has torn rib cartilage from going through that table, he went about 14 feet in the air here, and then came down at a horrible angle right onto his face. And I screamed, and you screamed, and your wife laughed at us, so we made her watch it, and then she screamed.
Mm-hmm.
It went straight to commercial. I thought just to make sure that no one died on live TV. They came back. He was, in fact, alive. Bully Ray is still making fun of Hulk Hogan. He hit a bear hug, and I think Taz has done this before, but it's still hilarious. He compared Bully Ray to the Warlord and also Ted Arcidi.
Yep.
AJ took a backdrop, which I was stunned because the last time he left his feet he nearly died. They did the boo yay spot, and the crowd was just going nuts, and here was where the announcer said we should have come to Salt Lake City years ago. Ray missed his backsplash. AJ missed his 450. It looked like the ropes were actually loose there, and Earl had to hold them so AJ could hit this move. Then the ref got bumped, and AJ hit the calf killer, and Bully Ray tapped, but there's no ref. And then Ray hit AJ with a chain, and then he hit his cutter, but AJ kicked out of that. So Ray went to use the chain again, and Anderson appeared, necked him on the top rope, and AJ hit a crucifix cradle and pinned him in one. It's actually a fun match despite all the shenanigans.
It's actually a very good match.
And by death.
Now, the finish, them having a bad camera angle, that I can't really explain. But
it's TNA.
Yeah.
So Bully Ray and Anderson kept on brawling.
Good match, though, to be fair.
It was a very good match. Bully Ray and Anderson kept brawling, and then Dixie appeared on the screen with a contract, which she said was full of her money, and she ordered AJ not to leave.
You know what I wonder? Why couldn't they have done this match on the pay-per-view?
Because it's TNA. No, don't think too hard. So Dixie came out. So it's Dixie, AJ, and a contract alone in the ring. She said there was even more money in this deal. And AJ looked it over and said, this is, in fact, an amazing contract by a horrible human being.
Mm-hmm.
Said she just used people and chewed them up and spat them out to make money. She hadn't believed in him before. Why should she believe in him now? He tore up the contract. Then he said making her pay was never about the money. Then he stopped explaining. Said he was taking his title. He was leaving. He was taking the title of the people. And he said, I changed my mind. I'm taking the car. And he took the keys. And she was walking out with the keys and the belt. And Dixie screaming, you can't do this. And AJ goes backstage. And the convertible is parked and pointed out the door with the lights on. And he jumps in. And he starts the car. And he holds the belt up backwards so the camera can see it. And he drives off with no shirt into the Utah October night. And that was that.
Now, she said the car was a signing bonus.
She mentioned that here, yeah.
He didn't sign.
No, he stole the car.
He stole the car.
He's a felon.
He stole a car. I'll bet that's not brought up next week.
Of course not.
You know, like I said, if you ignore that the main angle is supposedly that this guy is without a contract, and there's no reason for him to be on the show, wrestling, or defending his title. If you throw all that out of the picture, then this was all right. But unfortunately, that's the main angle. And the thing that is even worse than the complete ridiculousness of a guy without a contract who is determined to screw the owner, agreeing to come back and wrestle in the main event on her show for free and defend his title. Worse than that, believe it or not, there is something worse than that. And I don't even know if they realize this. Their storyline right now is designed so that the fans want to see AJ leave TNA. They have designed an angle where when Dixie Carter says, "I want you in TNA," the fans boo. This is a storyline where when AJ is handed a contract to sign and remain in TNA wrestling, and he rips it up, the fans chant, "Yes, yes, yes." So, not only is this poorly constructed and not at all, in any way, better than what WWE did with CM Punk, which is the goal, the longer it goes, the more fans are going to want AJ to not be in TNA. What the hell kind of a storyline is this?
A bad one.
Furthermore, where is he taking the belt?
He never said.
He said he's taking it to the people. What does that mean? He's taking it to The Rock? Taking it to... Where's he taking it? Where are the people?
I don't know.
Taking it to Walmart?
That would be awesome.
I guess we'll find out. Now, is AJ going to be on television next week?
It opened with Dixie Carter coming out to cut a promo, which was convenient for me because it meant I didn't have to type anything new. I could just use the exact same words I used to open last week's show. She was appalled that AJ Styles had rejected all her offers and had left. She said he was no world champ anymore. He was just another little kid trick-or-treating in a costume. So she needed a new champion, so she was booking an 8-man tournament. First 7 entrants were all former world champs. James Storm, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Austin Aries, Bobby Roode, and Chris Sabin. And live, she introduced these men apparently very quickly because they edited it in as best they could. They had video packages done for each guy, talking about his nicknames and what his finisher was, what championships he'd won, and who he'd beaten and all this. And they were pretty cool. But they had to edit it in between her words, and that was not always easy. So that was 7 men, and then before she explained who the 8th man would be, Bully Ray came out. All the other guys just let him walk on by. Before he could say anything, Dixie said the 8th spot would be determined by a gauntlet match, which is what they call a Royal Rumble. Mm-hmm. Bully wanted to know if he was not in that gauntlet and he was not in these 7 men, how he was going to win his title back. She blamed him for losing to AJ twice and starting all this chaos in the first place. He said it was all Mr. Anderson's fault.
You say Anderson or Hebner?
Well, the first one was Hebner, the second was Anderson.
I see.
Yeah. I summarized. So Anderson came out and they had a fight. And when they went to commercial, they were still brawling. So, they're brawling at the point when it goes to commercial break. When they come back 5 minutes later, they're showing what happened during the break. And apparently, in the interim, when we were away, the brawl was separated. Security managed to put Mr. Anderson in handcuffs. They dragged him out of the ring, backstage, through the locker room, and out the door. Then Tessmacher was there to verbally confront him, and that distracted him so Bully Ray could lay him out, work him over with the chain. All of that happened during the break. I am skeptical.
I was most baffled as to why Mr. Anderson was blurred out.
That also happened.
He was blurred out. he was taking a beating backstage, and they blurred him out during the beating. And I for the life of me, I could not figure out what happened. Because at first I thought maybe he's wearing some sort of logo that they don't want him to wear. But then it appeared to be the same shirt that he was wearing out there. So then I thought, well, maybe he's wearing a different shirt. But then I thought, if he wore a different shirt, I would have never noticed. But blurring him out, I noticed. So then I thought, maybe that's not even Mr. Anderson. Maybe they forgot to tape this, and so they had to find a stagehand, and then they blurred him out. But I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Anderson. So the mystery of Mr. Anderson being blurred at the moment remains unanswered. I have no earthly idea. And by the way, didn't a gauntlet match used to be that it was a Royal Rumble until there were two guys left in the ring?
They've done that before, yeah.
And then when there are two guys left, it's pinfalls only?
Yeah.
I guess times change. They didn't want to pin Sting.
No. Garrett was talking to a camera crew backstage when Knox told him to stop. Gunstorm got their title rematch against the BroMans. They attacked them on the ramp, put Jesse in the ring, hit him with every move in the world, and then Storm tried to suplex him into the ring, but Robbie E tripped Storm and then held his leg down in the ref count of 3. That was the whole match. Dixie was on the phone backstage when Sting interrupted. She said for one night, she was lifting his ban from title contention. She's going to put him in the gauntlet match. She's going to put him first in the gauntlet match so he can have the glory of going coast to coast. Sting then said he had earned everything in his career and he had no sense of entitlement, and he left. I'm thinking, was that a yes or a no? Then Dixie asked, is that a yes?
Oh my God, you and Dixie are on the same page.
I can't imagine anyone watching this and not thinking that.
Why did she give him a chance?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I thought that maybe somebody would know.
No.
I don't get it.
Cause there is no good reason in or out of storyline for her to lift Sting's ban from title contention. If she wanted a new champion, she just lift the ban forever. If she doesn't, she doesn't have to lift it tonight. There was no reward for her in this. I don't know. Bad Influence was dressed as Sherlock Holmes. They vowed to solve the mystery of Abyss.
Wouldn't one of them have been Watson?
You would think, but apparently they were two Sherlocks. Ethan Carter 3 versus Norv Furnham. Yes, they flew in Norv. Same guy he wrestled at the pay-per-view in San Diego. There were a couple times in the show, and this is the first one, where they had to edit in Mike Tenay voiceovers plugging the Bellator non-pay-per-view event. Mike Tenay is a pretty decent wrestling announcer. Voiceovers, not his thing.
Well, I don't think it's so much that voiceovers aren't his thing, just that they were completely unable to match the audio.
Mm-hmm.
It just jumped out at you that it was not taped at the same time.
Yeah, he was... Nothing about this was good.
You do realize, Vinny, actually you don't realize, if you go to ImpactWrestling.com, you know that they now have Impact 365, I think it's called.
It was 24/7, but yeah.
24. Is that what it is? It's not 24/7, is it really?
I'm pretty sure that's what they called it.
So they're stealing...
Impact 24/7.
No, it's 365. It's Impact 365. Anyway, the new Impact 365 has a meeting with Norv Furnham and Dewey Barnes.
Does it now?
Yes.
That does say 365. You're right.
Taz comes out of a bathroom stall.
Oh, boy.
Buries them. And then when he leaves, they conclude that, in fact, he thinks they're awesome. And so Norv Furnham and Dewey Barnes have agreed to team up. They are now a tag team. So they will be flown in every week, it appears.
All right.
A geek skinny tag team.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out why Norv Furnham was there, but now I have the answer.
If you say so. I guess that is the answer. I don't know if it's a good answer.
It's a lot easier than gut check. Just find a buddy in the locker room. Why they were both in the locker room, I have no idea.
Oh, God.
Norv Furnham and Dewey Barnes.
So they did the exact same Ethan Carter squash they've done every time.
And it's still not good.
He beats him up for a while. It takes too long, frankly.
Why is he selling for these men?
He sells for skinny geeks.
Just beat them up. Just destroy them.
Hits a headlock driver and pins them. And afterwards, they zoom in on him, and he's flexing his muscles and acting. He's trying to snarl and look all tough. And it's not quite as bad as Tough Guy Miz, but I still get the impression that this is a naturally goofy guy pretending to be a badass.
Well, that fits this character.
I suppose that's true.
He does need to stop selling for the geeks. You know what I mean? You establish the character and they're geeks. So beat the geeks, and then later on you can start selling for a geek if you're going to do some sort of storyline or something like that. But for now, he should just be killing geeks.
No one should ever sell for Dewey Barnes.
Unless I guess the idea is that he's Dixie's nephew, he's going to get a big push, but he's really not very good. Which is not a storyline that's going to get a guy over.
The storyline is that he sucks.
I don't like that storyline.
I don't either. Bobby Roode is watching a video with the doctor of Kurt Angle's injury. He implied to this doctor that it would be in his best interest if Kurt was declared unfit to wrestle.
So of the doctor and Bobby Roode is clearly the more rational of the two.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, he was right.
Yes. ODB was cutting a promo about her title match tonight. Bad Influence interrupted. First, they pointed out that ODB apparently stands for Overly Developed Bosoms. I laughed. They pointed out she knows Eric. Eric knows Abyss. She must know something about all this. Then Eric Young scared them away and said Abyss might show up. Gauntlet match for the last spot in the title tournament. Safe to say this was the most boring Royal Rumble I've ever seen.
It was a complete just...
A bunch of guys came out.
Nothing match.
Eventually, a bunch of guys were eliminated. Final four, and this actually is important, it was Magnus, Sting, and Bad Influence. So they kind of pair off, and Magnus is on one side of the ring with Daniels, and he eliminates him. Then he turns around, and he sees Sting fighting Kazarian on the ropes, and he runs over and he dumps both of them.
That's right.
So Magnus wins. He's the 8th man in the tournament. Sting was taken aback by this, didn't really know how to react. Magnus ignored him, just posing on the ropes, and at the last minute, as he saw Sting was about to go backstage, he started really overdoing the fake clap for him, and then doing the NWO point.
Yes.
So, yes, Magnus...
I did like that.
Magnus was a, dick move win.
Nothing match, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. They are all former world... No, actually, they weren't. This was just the dingbats.
A bunch of them were.
Knox.
Actually, I guess it was only
really?
Sting.
Yeah,
was.
Knox,
No, I'm
Eric
wrong.
Young, Kazarian.
I'm wrong. Only Sting was. Dixie cut a promo backstage announcing the brackets of the tournament, which she did very quickly, but thankfully they are here on the website. Or they were. They're there. It's one side of the bracket is Jeff Hardy versus Chris Sabin, and then Bobby Roode versus James Storm, just to do beer money again. The other side of the bracket is Kurt Angle versus Austin Aries, and then Magnus versus Joe, just to put the main event Mafia guys against each other.
What a coincidence.
And then Dixie had another announcement, and she just teased us by saying it would be the Wheel of Dixie.
I actually, honest to God, was amused by Dixie this evening. She's getting a little better. I still don't think we need another evil heel female GM gimmick.
I would be fine with never seeing a heel authority figure ever again.
But she's getting better, and she was entertaining tonight. But I think the idea is now they're just going with she's completely clueless, which is funny.
Well, she's also really...
The Wheel of Dixie? Come on.
I know. But she's also intentionally overdoing the Southern accent stuff.
Yes.
And your wife, who is not a fan, was mocking everything she said and also overdoing the Southern accent. I think that's a good thing. Because it's something that the heel can be made fun of for.
Yeah.
It's something
I
to
like
get
it.
Some kind of reaction.
It's good.
Gail Kim wrestled ODB. They were brawling on the floor, and ODB was whipping her ass until Tapa distracted her, and then Gail hit the sliding dropkick. They did a spot where Gail put her in a head scissors, and ODB kind of fought to her feet, and Gail was in a handstand trying to keep her in the head scissors. And all I thought was, this looks phony. Every part of this looks phony.
It was wacky.
So eventually, ODB hit a Fez press and tried to go for the pin, but Tapa took the ref. And then when Gail went to confront Lei'd Tapa, Gail schoolgirled her from behind and grabbed the ropes for the pin. Your basic match, I noted.
Not much to it.
Bad Influence were backstage. They were upset that the gauntlet had not gone their way, but they still had their Sherlock Holmes costumes, and they were going to solve the Abyss mystery in the ring. So after the break, they were out there. The Sherlock costumes and the over-the-top bad English accent.
Actually, it was it just kept changing. They had a perpetually changing accent. And this segment did not have much heat at all.
No, it was one of those segments where the announcers were realizing quickly it died and were turning on it and talking about what a farce it was. And
did you mention Taz burying aces and eights?
That's later.
Oh, was?
Isn't it?
No, it was earlier.
Oh, it was in the gauntlet match. I skipped over the whole thing. That is important. The first guy eliminated from the gauntlet match was Knox. At which point Taz screamed about how there was no one left in this club, and those that were left were losers. Then he declared, I gotta get out of this club. This club sucks.
I love when Taz just is like, he doesn't care, and he just goes into business for himself.
Yes.
I don't care about this angle. What am I, eights and eights announcer for? I don't care about my
character. I don't care about the storyline.
You know what?
I'm just going to point out what is a fact.
You know what it is? Eric Bischoff's gone. And this was like his baby, this aces and eights. You know, NWO announcer, it's the same old thing.
Yeah.
And so now that he's gone, Taz is like, this is stupid. Get me out of this stupid club and angle. And
really needs to end.
Oh, it appears to be pretty much over now. Oh. I wonder if that's why at the pay-per-view they teased all these guys coming back, and then Bischoff's gone, and so they just aren't bringing him back now.
I don't know.
Aces and eights dead.
I don't know.
We'll see how long Garrett lasts now.
Yeah. So this bad influence segment, it really wasn't that bad. It was not the best thing I ever saw.
The issue was this was now 3.5 hours into the show. And after that gauntlet match, everybody was getting tired. And the next 3 segments were just like, they got into the main event, but it took a while.
Yeah. So they brought a pumpkin into the ring and said, like Abyss, this pumpkin was round and heavy and had no talent. Then Eric Young came out and they had a brawl, and then Abyss showed up and he laid them out. And I was hoping the only way this could have been worthwhile is if they had gimmicked one of the pumpkins and it ended with either Kaz or Daniels wearing a jack-o'-lantern on their head.
Well, sadly, that didn't
No
happen.
such luck. He just hit them with wrestling moves, and they bailed. That was it. Dixie showed Sabin and Hardy the Wheel of Dixie. It was, much like that song we heard earlier, it was spin the wheel, make the deal. So they spun the wheel, and it came up Full Metal Mayhem, which is TNA code for a TLC match. So yes, Jeff Hardy and Chris Sabin are wrestling next week in the first match of the World Title Tournament, and the first match will be a TLC match.
Good way to start.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it off to a rockin' start. The rest of the matches will have no problem following that in this one-night tournament.
That's not a one-night tournament.
I thought it was.
No, she said it would be over several weeks. Nice. The one-night tournament you're thinking
right. Yeah, they got 2 tournaments.
It's a different tournament because they got one of those stupid one-night stand pay-per-views they got to do, and it's the Tournament of Champions. That's this weekend.
Now,
so
yes, before the Roode Angle match, they announced there's a pay-per-view tournament starting tomorrow, but there's a different tournament starting next week.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
This was an unfortunate turn of events to have both these things happening at the same time.
So the main event was Bobby Roode versus Kurt Angle. If you loved their match on pay-per-view, you'll like this match because it was the exact same thing, just not quite as good. They did the exact same finish where Kurt went up top and did a superplex, and he landed, and neither man was moving, and the ref gave them a standing 10 count, and Roode made it to his feet, and Kurt didn't, so Roode won again because Kurt hurt himself doing a suplex again. And then Kurt has, unfortunately, distressingly might be a better word, he's gotten really good at selling incapacitation and convulsions and spasms. And he did all of these things. And the crowd, which had been hot all night, was hushed for this, like something had gone horribly wrong. And the Mike Tenay, these are not quite his exact words, but this was the general theme. He told us all that if we wanted to know if Kurt Angle lived or died, we should go to TNA's website for an update.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Unfortunate.
It was unfortunate.
There were people on the internet that tonight were very concerned about Kurt Angle. Mostly just some dudes on Twitter. But yes, he's gotten very adept at feigning near death. I got to give these guys credit. Like I said, especially after that gauntlet match, my God. After the gauntlet match, this crowd, I mean, this was a good crowd last week, and it started out as a good crowd. Gauntlet match kind of killed them. They were quiet for the women's match. They were quiet for Daniels Kazarian, and they were quiet for the beginning of this match, but these guys worked so hard that by midway near the end, they were chanting, "This is awesome." So these guys did a hell of a job getting people into the match, so good for them.
By the way,
Get hard. No, go ahead.
The one night only Tournament of Champions, 8-man tournament that includes Bobby Roode, James Storm, Austin Aries, Jeff Hardy, and Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
It almost is the exact same guys.
It's
5
amazing.
of the same 8.
It's amazing. And you know what? In Sting in it?
Yes.
There you go. How about that?
The other 3 are Sting, Anderson, and Bully.
And guess who, this is a complete coincidence, is not in that tournament tomorrow? AJ.
AJ Styles is not in that.
Yep. Almost no mention whatsoever of AJ on this show. He is going to Mexico Sunday to defend the TNA title against Judas Macias.
Flying himself around the world.
I hope that they have one of the announcers say that this match is sanctioned by AJ Styles. This championship match. We'll see what happens. I guess they're thinking of showing footage on Impact, however, no sense that would make. We'll see.